Okay. Let me try that again since my mic fell apart. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our January meeting. Appreciate you all being here. I'll have a chair's report here in a few moments, but in advance of that, make sure I'm here. In advance of that, we'll start with the minutes as we typically do. So the minutes were in our material. Are there any comments or corrections on the minutes?
Sir, I'd move we approve the minutes from December meeting.
That's awesome. Thank you for that motion. Is there a second?
Second that.
Thank you. All right. We have a dual second. So, okay, any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, aye, please. Any opposed? Okay, so the minutes carry. So we've correctly chronicled what we did last time. I know that President Muma has an introduction. We'll start with that, and then we'll see what other introductions there might be.
Good afternoon, Regents. Thank you. I'd like to introduce our new Senior Executive Vice President and Provost, Dr. Monica Lounsbury. Monica, if you could stand up.
Welcome.
Just a little bit about Dr. Lounsbury. She was most recently the Dean of the College of Health and Human Services at Cal State Long Beach. And prior to that appointment, she held various administrative positions at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, including Department Chair, Associate Vice President, Vice Provost, and Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs in the School of Medicine. Her research has focused in the past on increasing population level physical activity, and in recognition of her scholarly achievements, she has reached fellow status in 3 different academic organizations, including the National Academy of Kinesiology. She's originally from Green River, Wyoming. She received a bachelor's degree in biology and chemistry from Dakota Wesleyan University, a master's in sport pedagogy from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and a PhD in sport pedagogy and educational research methods from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. She arrived here on January 6th in the middle of a snowstorm from California. She is, another interesting thing about her, she sings in a rock band.
Oh,
Please welcome Dr. Lounsbury.
there was asking for songs up here, but I think I'd suggest we save that. We just we let the enthusiasm build on that for a meeting or two. Unless Vice Chair Rolfe starts this thing, then please overwhelm him.
Bad news, bad news. I'll be back up, dancer.
So, well, again, welcome. We sound very accomplished. We look forward to working together. So one of the things in our roles we get to do is celebrate lots of starts of years, starts of school year, starts of calendar year, and so forth. So I do want to say Happy New Year and hope you all had great holidays. Of course, that seems like a heck of a long time ago, doesn't it? But Happy New Year. We're glad you're all here. And we hope you had a great season. So you've seen the agenda. You know what we're talking about today. A lot of this is information sharing, which we think is helpful to help build our longer term plans and our recognition, but we do have some action items. I'd mentioned that in one segment, we talk about what we do with the investments we get from the state and how important that is. I think that's always helpful, but it's certainly timely in this season. That also has a discussion about our student success initiatives. And that's very fitting because we're going to meet with the student affairs officers after this meeting. That's what typically is a breakfast, but we thought that the schedule worked this time to do it today, and that'd be efficient for all of us. So we're all good with efficiency. So that happens later today. We're looking forward to even hearing more about student success. Again, that's one of our pillars, as you all know very well. Tonight we'll go to the state of the state. So you've seen our notices. We'll finish here. We'll have that meeting. We'll go to the regions. We'll go. I shouldn't say all the regions. We'll go to the state of the state, and then we'll conclude with a dinner, and then for this month, that's our business. We're really looking forward to seeing the policymakers over there as always, and spending some time with them. So that lays out our day. And again, thank you all for being here. We look forward to a great meeting. So that takes us to our report from President Seal Flanders.
Yes, thank you, Chair Ice. And just in the same vein, we're excited the legislature's back in town. We've had great partnerships with our state policy makers, certainly the last couple of years. Just wanted to let the system know that last week I delivered testimony to the Committee on State Employee Compensation. This was a special committee that was, and as you know, all of our employees are state employees. And really, we discussed the fact that they were left out of the merit pool at the same level as other state employees the last couple of years. And so for our agency and for the state university employees, they received a 2.5% merit pool the last 2 years as opposed to a 5% merit pool. And so we went through what those numbers would be on how we could be equitably compensated as you compare us to the remainder of the state employees. And then also shared some market information with the committee, and they had some questions certainly about the methodology of the market study and how, and they might need some extra information there. And so we'll get that back to them. But I thought overall it was a real positive interaction. We've also, you know, have joined Complete College America, and so we're looking forward to that kickoff event, and your institutions will have teams there. That's going to be February 11th, and we thank Washburn University for hosting that event. Just wanted to remind people that this Friday is the RSVP date, so we kind of know how many meals and that kind of thing, and can put on a successful event. So with that, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, that takes us to the report of from the faculty sentence. Thank you for being here again.
Sorry, it took me a minute to dig out of the back row. This is a great, huge audience. It's wonderful to see the year start off this way.
Well, they knew you were making a report, perhaps.
I doubt it's for my candor that they're here. At least that's what my students say. Good afternoon. It's wonderful to start the brand new year with you in here. Happy to say that the College Faculty Senate presidents did definitely not sit on our laurels over the holiday break. I'm happy to report that over our meeting today, we completed our updated version of the faculty award for the new version that would allow for a third award for non-tenure track full-time faculty position, as well as expanding the definition of work duties that are included in that award as well. That's been submitted to be reviewed at, I believe, BASC during the February meeting, or no, I'm sorry, go to COCO, and then it will go to the virtual meeting for BASC at the beginning of March. So we've got that done. We're continuing work in various areas. We presented a proposal for information at COCO this morning that has some continuing work that needs to occur on that as well, and it's looking at moving forward on it.
So if I can interrupt,
Nope, go for it, sorry.
governance discussed that same policy this morning, taking up on the discussions that we'd had with you and with other campus visits and so forth. So we actually, I think, are planning on moving that in governance, unless I misunderstand what's happening.
No, that's true. For the
So-
faculty awards.
For the faculty awards.
So it'll go to governance
Yeah,
instead
So
of,
actually, governance has had a first discussion, looking
Oh,
at
okay.
policy, discussing having the third track as you laid out.
okay,
You would have heard about that in the governance report in a few minutes, but I didn't want to make you wait for that. So we would expect to hear that again in February.
Okay.
And then move forward from there.
okay,
Not
slight
to
adjustment
prejudge
to the
what
calendar
everybody's
then,
going
yeah.
to decide, but that's what we're going to do. And then we also had heard discuss, not to anticipate anything, had requests about staff as well. So we're considering that also as an award.
Oh, marvelous.
So that all occurred in governance today.
Sounds like an excellent governance meeting today.
It was pretty good.
Let's see. Other item is that we were able to consolidate a kind of overview list of a lot of items that are going on with the continuing push for discussions on AI in higher ed in Kansas. Happy to report that several institutions are planning symposiums, various continuing education offerings for students and faculty. So happy to know that that is an ongoing effort, and we're trying to keep it at the forefront of what's being discussed. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Okay, well, again, you should be glad to see, we do listen carefully to your reports. We should be glad we were moving it in governance on the board.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. That takes us to Student Affairs Advisory Committee. Hannah Eckstein, right?
Eckstein.
Stein,
So
okay.
close.
I got
so
it wrong
close.
last time and thought I fixed it. Okay, let's try
Uh,
that again. Hannah Eckstein, please.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. Again, I want to thank you all for having the breakfast with us in December. I know we all really enjoyed getting to spend that time with you guys. With the new year, I'm not sure if you guys all have resolutions, but it seems like for the students, our resolution is definitely just to survive the spring semester. Today, we talked a lot about what's coming up for us, which is, of course, election fees, tuition changes, and all that good stuff. So we look forward to furthering those discussions with you all. Additionally, we're looking forward to Higher Education Day, which is going to be the next K-Board meeting, so February 12th. And I can't wait to see what these students do when they go and talk to all of these senators and representatives. There's clearly a lot of interest from the students across the state of Kansas, as all of the institutions have tons of people going. So we should all look forward to that and be excited about the student involvement. But that's all I have for you guys.
Questions or comments?
I just want to say I was reviewing notes from the last meeting and was going over the notes from our breakfast. And I just want to thank you all again for being so organized and on point and bringing up just good things. So just a great group of leaders we have here. So thank you very much, President Eckstein.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. He's trying to pull me off sides about being student body president. But Hannah already admonished me that I'm the one that always brings that up. So I didn't today. I didn't today. He did. Okay, that takes us to the standing committee reports. So first, Chair Mendoza with Academic Affairs.
Thank you, Chair Ice. The Academic Affairs Committee met this morning to consider a brief agenda. We did not meet over the winter break. So this morning, we approved a proposal from Washburn University for a new program, the Master of Science in Medical Dosimetry. For those of you who do not know, as I did not, dosimetrists determine radiation dosage for cancer patients, and this would be one of the only, or I believe it would be the only program in the state. We also approved a request from the University of Kansas to change its qualified admissions criteria. Sam Christy Dangermond reviewed the rubric for the academic year 2025 performance reports and explained the expectations for fulfilling this year's performance agreements. We tabled this item for further review and we'll meet about it at our next BASC meeting. Vice President Rusty Mulholland shared upcoming dates for the first 15 work group and said a landing page on the K-Board website would soon be added to house materials related to this work. I believe that will be live later on in the week. And finally, before I conclude my report, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the work of Dr. Carla Wiscombe as she prepares to retire at the end of this month. She has another BASC meeting, but this is her last board meeting. We appreciate her years of dedication to the K-Board system in the state of Kansas, and we want to congratulate her on her retirement.
Well, retirement's an event to celebrate, so I'll add and say again, thank you and congratulations.
And that concludes my report.
Okay, any questions for Chair Mendoza? Okay, thank you. Chair Benson.
Chairman, Fiscal Affairs and Audit Committee conducted our agenda call on January 2nd and met again today. By board policy, each of the state universities has an internal audit function with a designated internal auditor that has a direct reporting relationship with our committee. The remaining three campuses presented to us today on their annual audit plans, and I would say that Jana Clark at K-State, Dr. Tammy Norman at Emporia State and Bering Green, University Controller and Interim Internal Auditor from Fort Hays, all presented today, did an incredible job. We had a robust discussion about the importance of adequate resources dedicated to the internal audit function. We appreciate that the auditors meet regularly and share insights among the group and take the time to participate in national and regional audit organizations. With turnover of staff at some of our institutions, Mr. Chair, we also revisited the importance of cross-training among staff wherever possible, and we did formally ask that the auditors return to our committee with basically some benchmarking and some information on how they compare to like-size organizations, make sure that we're adequately resourcing and adequately staffing the audit function. So look forward to that. Although the original plan was to update board policy on internal audit, it's been determined that the language does not need updating with the new global audit standards that take effect this month. Going forward, the chair of the board's Fiscal Affairs and Audit Standing Committee will co-sign the university's audit charter with the campus CEO as they are updated. Each auditor has been given my direct contact information, so they have access to reach out if needed. We do have items on.
That sounds like a positive development.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, and-
All right.
and, yeah,
I want to make sure we should be pleased, not frightened,
Yeah.
to quote Ghostbusters. So,
That is well said.
okay.
We do have items on this afternoon's agenda, which have all been reviewed by the committee. On the consent agenda and discussion agenda are several items related to WSU Stadium project. Interim CFO David Miller did a great job of presenting on the University Stadium project, which now totals $78 million for all phases. Although they have fundraising leads, there are no firm commitments yet, and they're working with local partners on how local support will fit in with the overall project. WSU clarified, and I think this needs to make sure that this lands. WSU clarified that no general use revenues will be devoted to this project and that the later phase will not commence until funding is in hand. I want to be sure to point that out. After discussing the project more thoroughly, the committee agreed the request for seeking additional bonding authority from the legislature should advance to the full board this afternoon, Mr. Chairman, which will be reviewed here in just a bit. In other items, Director of Literacy, Dr. Lane, reviewed the request for a market-based tuition rate for educators taking the new foundations course at the state universities. The committee endorses the proposal and commends the deans of education and Dr. Lane for their quick work on this aspect of the literacy blueprint. WSU has also formally requested authorization to refund a portion of non-taxable bonds issued in 2021, which can be done with the approval of the board's Fiscal Affairs and Audit Standing Committee. The committee heard from WSU and from Kansas Department of Finance Authority this morning, and based on the information provided to the committee approves this action, and the financing is necessary for tax compliance purposes. WSU will then be allowed to lease a portion of the Digital Research and Transformation Hub on the Innovation Campus to private companies. The rent from the third parties is anticipated to make up for the additional debt payment for the bonds that will now become taxable. And lastly, Mr. Chair, the state's annual financial report was published last month, and the two findings for Wichita State related to entering and approving journal entries, which are being corrected with the programming of the accounting system and enforcement of payment approved policies. The auditor will now follow up with WSU in next year's financial report, and we appreciate WSU's work to improve processes and ensure there are adequate resources devoted to the important support functions of the campus as they are vital to the success of our universities. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report, and as always, thank Vice President Frisbee for summarizing what was another busy meeting this morning for Fiscal Affairs and Audit.
I don't think it was a full meeting.
It was a very good discussion, though.
Any questions for Chair Benson? Okay, all right, thank you very much. That takes us to governance. I'll make that report. Already did part of it. We also met this morning. Among our action items, we'll authorize the board president to execute a contract for the blueprint for our literacy program with Wichita State. And then the committee reviewed our annual safety plans with Wichita State University. You will all recall that we do that on a rotating basis. We get those updates from each of our institutions. Today was Wichita State's turn. We had a full and comprehensive report. And again, I mentioned the policy on the faculty awards. And then lastly, we have awarded the contract that we launched, I think we discussed a few meetings back, on compensation for our CEOs, the market-based study, in addition to potential structural recommendations. So that's now underway. We'll have a kickoff meeting in the near term. It's my intention to meet with them before that, and then we'll be working on a timeline for their data to come to us in March. So that's moving along at a maybe not quite as fast as we hope, but a pace that we can tolerate. So, and make our deadlines. Any questions on any of that? Okay, that takes us to the consent agenda. Does anyone have a perspective on the consent agenda? Questions, comments, or maybe even a motion?
I'd move we approve, sir.
Okay, you're pretty good at motioning today. Is there a second?
Second.
John got the last one, so you should get this one. Okay, all right. Moved and seconded. All right, so any discussion on the consent agenda? I hearing none. All in favor of approval? Aye, please. Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda passes. So thank you all very much, particularly the deep reviews you all did in your meetings. So that, of course, then takes us to the discussion agenda. We start with academic affairs. Chair Mendoza, I hand it to you, but I may be a touch pass, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hand it over to Dr. Von Hollen.
Thank you, Regent Mendoza. Good afternoon. Several chief academic officers have indicated to me that their institution is considering offering a reduced credit baccalaureate degree. I'm very pleased to provide a broad overview for the board as information as I think we're probably going to see some of those coming across our desk before too long. I'd like to make sure we understand the difference between a 3-year baccalaureate degree and a reduced credit baccalaureate degree. A 3-year degree programs provide a course structure and a plan for students to complete the bachelor's degree in 3 years without reducing the typical number of required hours, usually a minimum of 120. For the 3-year degree, students will, for example, take courses over the summer and also use credits they've earned through early college programs, such as dual credit or advanced placement to expedite degree completion. On the other hand, a reduced credit degree program lowers the degree or the credit hour requirement, usually from 120 to 90 or so. This past September, the Higher Learning Commission issued guidelines and an application process for the colleges and universities it accredits to offer reduced credit bachelor degree programs. The HLC issued these materials in response to growing interest in them. According to HLC President Barbara Gelman-Danley, the commission recognized, quote, the desire among our institutions to meet students' needs with more flexible degree options. The goal, she stated, is to ensure that reduced credit degrees will have as much rigor and quality as traditional degrees. The HLC defines the reduced credit degree program as one in which the required credit hours are less than the traditional 120 credit hours, as currently specified in HLC's assumed practices. The HLC will review applications to offer these reduced credit bachelor degrees through what's known as its substantive change process. And this is to ensure that the proposed degrees comply with the Commission's criteria for accreditation. This process usually will take about 8 months. And in addition to HLC approval, an institution wanting to offer these degrees will have to have state approval as well. Among the factors the HLC wants to look at are the rigor and quality of the program, the resources to support student success, will the program further the institution's mission and serve students? Has the institution considered the impact of the degree format on such matters as transfer, licensure, and employment, and among others? And has it considered any strategies to mitigate those concerns? A communication plan to ensure transparency and also a plan for reviewing and assessing student learning outcomes. The three-year bachelor's degree is not really a new type of degree, although it's not as common in the U.S. as it is in other places in the world. Many universities in the United Kingdom offer three-year bachelor degrees. England, Wales, Northern Ireland, Australia, and Canada. India also provides three-year options in some fields. Also Sweden and Finland, many of their programs, bachelor programs, are designed to be completed in 3 years. Depending on the country, these models are most prevalent in the humanities, the social and natural sciences, arts, business, and commerce. Several states in this country do offer three-year bachelor's degrees, not the reduced credit degrees, including California, Texas, Florida, New York, and Michigan. The Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities was the first regional accreditor to approve the reduced credit bachelor's degree. It did so last summer when it approved 7 degrees ranging in credits from 90 to 96 for delivery at Brigham Young University Pathway Worldwide beginning this past fall. Plymouth State University in Massachusetts was also approved for a reduced credit degree beginning in the fall of 2025 by the New England Commission of Higher Education. And it's my understanding that a number of applications are currently in the HLC queue. There are both perceived advantages and disadvantages of the reduced credit bachelor's degree. As we have very little data or any track record on these degrees, both the proponents and the opponents of the degree express what they believe will be the likely impact of these programs. One perceived advantage is the potential for cost savings. By cutting the length of study, students can reduce their tuition, fees, and associated living costs. It would also allow them to enter the job market sooner. This benefit may be particularly appealing to students concerned about being burdened with student loan debt. As they start their careers earlier, greater earning potential, quicker return on their investment. The efficiency of the program is another. A reduced credit degree, students are often required to take a set of more focused, more intensely focused courses, which can lead to a deeper understanding of their chosen field. This approach may benefit quickly evolving industries such as technology or business, and graduates may find themselves better prepared to meet the demands of their field due to these intensive study periods. Many proponents tout that this will help meet workforce needs, especially because many of these reduced credit programs align with fields and currently experiencing employee shortages. Many of these fields already draw students into the workforce before they have completed their degrees. And a reduced credit degree could have the benefit of getting people with post-secondary credentials into the workforce. The perceived disadvantages, one is that these degrees likely, because of the shortened length of time, will limit students' exposure to extracurricular opportunities. And many employers consider these to be essential for professional growth and networking. Somewhat contradictory to what I said earlier, some opponents talk about the lack of depth or breadth of knowledge in these reduced credit degrees. They may not have that depth and breadth as the traditional bachelor's degree. A shorter work program or a shorter program may not provide the skills or knowledge students need for employment and professional development, especially if it requires hands-on training and that's not built into the program. And probably the biggest disadvantage is that we just don't know how these degrees are going to be received by employers. Will they accept the reduced credit degree as a worthwhile credential? Without clarity or any certainty around this, students holding a 3-year degree or a reduced credit degree may be disadvantaged in a competitive job market where perceptions of the educational credentials can influence hiring decisions. Reduced credit and 3-year baccalaureate degrees will likely become more widespread across the U.S. in the coming years. Before any Kansas public institution of higher education could offer one, however, the Kansas Board of Regents would need to amend its policies defining the bachelor's degree. Our policy requires a baccalaureate to be at least 4 years of academic years of full-time post-secondary study consisting of courses totaling 120 semester credit hours in the liberal arts, sciences, or professional fields. The bachelor degree is further defined by it must include a minimum of 45 semester credit hours in upper division courses and also must have a distinct specialization or a major. Which would entail approximately the equivalent of 1 year of academic work in the main subject area. As I said, we have not yet received a proposal for reduced credit bachelor's degree, although I believe it is imminent that we will see one soon. That was a very quick and very broad overview of this, of reduced credit degrees. I'd be happy to answer any questions or to try to provide additional information if the board is interested.
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Thank you for the pre-read and for the presentation. I think it's important for us to understand this. The one thing I didn't see covered was the some credit, no degree folks. So, we had a presentation a couple months ago on reaching out to that group. Is this the kind of thing where someone, there's a 90-hour deal, someone has the right 90 hours, they'd be given a degree, as these things are being rolled out? I'm just wondering about that population, similar to the way we thought about the associate's degree change we made.
That certainly could be a possibility, but there would be a number of things that would have to line up. Does the individual that has some college, no degree, have the necessary number of credits, and are those credits in the right areas that fit the program?
But the path to finishing college, I mean, if the university rolled this out, right, there could be a new messaging to that audience around a path to degree. It wasn't there before. That's maybe feels much more in reach than previously.
I
You
think
also have a time limit for how long the classes are good though, right? Don't you have to have the classes in some recent period?
and I won't swear to this. I think institutions make that determination. And I believe that institutions have the authority to consider courses prior to that date under certain circumstances.
Okay. I think that's different than advice I got personally, but okay. So, all right, I get your point.
Yeah, that's just I'd probably add that to the list of benefits as think about.
Subset of existing one. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this seems counter to what we've done at the university level and what a bachelor degree has always been. What are the 30 hours that we're no longer going to require somebody to take?
Mhm.
Yeah, and the messaging on the advantages kind of makes it sound like those are not really needed today. And are you going to have this be something that all of a sudden college is a 3-year program instead of a 4-year? And it just, like I said, seems counter to what we've always done.
Sure. And I certainly wouldn't disagree with that. Um, I think it will depend on the nature of the program, the type of program, how those credit hours are distributed within the 90 to 96. Or let me say it another way. It's less than 120. There's nothing magical about 90. It could be anywhere kind of in between 90 and 120. If you think about it, to me, what's probably going to be kind of jettisoned will be those electives that students take currently in a traditional 4-year degree. So you'd still have your general education requirements, which our gen ed is 35 to 36 degrees. A major field can range from 30 to 50 credit hours or so. So when you put that together, there's only a handful of credits for electives. It may be that depending on the type of program, how it's advised, that some of those electives could be substituted for internships or some kind of hands-on experiential learning as well. I'm, I think something of a traditionalist. I believe in the value of education for education's sake. I believe in the liberal arts and having a broad education. But I also understand that there are very real needs in our workplace that perhaps I'm not suggesting every degree is going to become a 3-year degree, but there may be, specific types of programs, specific industries where this becomes, an acceptable alternative to the 4-year degree. Ultimately, what gives a credential, a degree, its value, is what other people place on it, right? If an employer believes that this degree, consisting of 90 hours, is a good proxy for the skills and knowledge and content that a potential employee needs, they will probably start hiring people with those type of degrees, and it will become, more commonplace. I think it's inevitable that these are going to come our way. I think we'll need to think very clearly about balancing. Do they still have the rigor and quality that we expect in any of our programs? And is this the direction that we want our universities start moving? And will it meet, will it have those benefits that many people think are making it worthwhile?
Sure. I have a couple too, but I'll keep waiting. Go ahead.
Yeah, kind of a follow-up question to that. And I appreciate that we're having the discussion because it shows that we are responding to trends in education by at least studying what's happening out there. Related to that last point you made, in the other countries and the other states that are doing this, have we seen the wage information? Is the wage information for a reduced credit degree consistent with the traditional 4-year degree?
Well, in other countries, they don't have reduced credit degrees. Their bachelor's degrees take 3 years to complete.
Actually, if I can interrupt, one of the countries is India, and I want to make sure we understand is the 3-year degrees that we give bachelor degrees for is in arts. It's usually BA versus BS. And so BS is almost always 4 years. They can never become a science bachelor with 3-year degree. Just wanted to clarify that. On Bachelor of Arts, they can go 3 years and still get it, but there is this notion within the employer that they may not be equally compared to. Just wanted to say that. So
Yeah,
it's
and,
not compared to all segments of the.
And I think, and certainly, I'm not going to question your knowledge of Indian higher education. But I think, England and much of the United Kingdom, that the programs are 3 years in length. It's just a slightly different model than ours.
We also have free.
So I don't know about market. I don't think we've looked into, uh, what that might entail in terms of wages. It's been that way in many European countries for a long time, and it seems to be working pretty well for them.
I would say though, that some of that's a dynamic circumstance. I mean, that's all got to do with how competitive the job market is. I mean, right now, it might have some seductive appeal. If in the future it's different, then all of a sudden, something that seemed valuable now is less valuable. I would also say that my employer, BNSF, we did a 90-degree program in concert with a university, took advantage of that, of what can be done in Texas. But what was much, 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 much different about that was those are already our employees that already had a whole set of information that they'd learned and gathered, and they were doing their job, and we were enhancing their ability to be promoted and to advance. So, I mean, again, we could call that a reduced credit degree, but I would call it much different. So I think some of this may be a pull as much as it's a push. But you've said a couple times we should expect these to come. I'd be curious from who. But go ahead, Chancellor.
Yeah, I'd agree with a lot of what you said. First of all, I think you have to be a little bit careful about comparing internationally because their grade school, high school systems are different as well.
Correct.
And so they're set up differently from the get-go. And you can't take that in isolation, I don't think. Secondly, a lot of our degrees, to your point, actually have other accrediting bodies that you have to meet their criteria. And so the sciences, generally, that's not going to work. Because the majority of those, or engineering, et cetera, have their own set of criteria that they don't really care what this says. They're going to say what they want. But where potentially it does have some value is in the competency-based education environment, which is much what you described at BNSF, which is giving credit for some life skills, if you will, or experience in addition to the 90. That may be a place that we could play in this space.
And I think the chancellor makes an excellent point about competency-based. There are some institutions that offer degrees that really have no seat time component. It's just a matter of can you demonstrate mastery of certain competencies. So it could be a 2-year bachelor's degree if you achieve that. Just a side note too, I mean, I've told you all before, I'm a historian by training, and I've just been imagining back in the 1950s when someone proposed the idea of an associate degree. Oh, this is watering down the bachelor's degree. It doesn't have the depth and breadth, but I think we've come to see that the associate degree is a very valuable credential in our country. It doesn't have that depth, obviously, as the bachelor's degree, but it provides a very important credential for lots of people to find work and employment. So I'm still somewhat ambivalent about it, but I think we need to keep it in mind and consider that it's coming our way, and we'll need to talk more about it.
So my question is, I maybe haven't thought through this at this point, but is BAS going to further evaluate whether this is something that you'll consider as a board? It seems like it, if it would be helpful, I think, for the universities to know what you're thinking, as opposed to someone bringing a 90-hour degree program, and then you have to decide whether you're going to change your policy.
Well, I think I'd like to hear what the whole board has to say. I mean, I think I can see benefits both ways, but what I would suggest we be very careful of is this session was intended that this is something that's starting to happen. And it may even be that some of you are working on it. And so we wanted preliminary information to the board. I don't think we ever intended to make that a board initiative, that we're looking for reduced credit hours. So, I mean, I think it kind of depends on if any of you all really think you're going to work on it. And then as opposed to this becomes something we drive. I think it's more than it's a pull from us, but that's my perspective.
Let me just also be clear that when we say a reduced credit bachelor's, I don't believe it really means we're going to take a history degree or a Bachelor of Business Administration degree and cut 90 credits off of it. These are going to be new degrees that perhaps are, focused on a particular industry or in a particular area that, has a fewer number of credits to earn the credential. I really don't see us taking our inventory of programs right now and slashing all of them from 120 or more, as the chancellor pointed out, because of accreditation,
Well, but we have
down
to
to
be,
90.
sorry, I interrupted. But we have to be prepared that if anything is even similar,
Mhm.
that it potentially becomes effectively that. The unintended consequence is a rotation.
Yeah.
From one degree to another.
Well, I mean, one thing that will have to happen if we do want to approve them, we will have to modify our policy because the definition of a bachelor degree is very clear.
Go ahead.
So we talked earlier in Basque about the Master of Science in Dosimetry. And as we were hearing that information, we heard about the radiation therapy certificate that takes 3 years, that those students would then go on for another year to get their bachelor's in medical imaging, then move on to that Master of Science in Dosimetry. So when we talk about these would be new programs, why would there be a chance that that radiation therapy certificate that takes 3 years meets that 90 to 96 credit requirements? And now we have those to look at. So I don't know that it would be, I don't know where this is going to go, but I don't know that it would be all new programs.
Well, what you're suggesting is kind of a conversion of a certificate into a reduced credit.
Right. And so
category.
that's my next question. When I look at this first bullet point, to get a bachelor's degree, this is what we're saying you have to have, right? So what is the definition of a bachelor's degree? Because we do so many credit hours for an associate's and then so many credit hours for a bachelor's, but then we reduce it. So should it not be called something different?
Well, I think Dr. Flanders and I agree that that it should be. In talking to Dr. Bonds-Racky on my staff, who attended a HLC convening in November, I believe it was. I think it's my understanding that HLC was very intentional about not giving it another name, that they want to keep it at the bachelor's degree level, whatever it is. Now, that has lots of implications for our system. It would, by definition, typically community colleges, technical colleges don't offer a bachelor's degree. It would require, the substantive change, and it would require some, I think probably some input from the board as well. So I don't know why, that was their decision, but it's our understanding that that was a very intentional decision to make.
Thank you. There was a question of sort of a chicken and egg thing. Who's pushing this? Do we push it? Do we wait for somebody externally to push it? I've always said to people who ask what do the boards of Regents do? What's the board do? I've answered that in my own way, which is we should promote and advance the improvement and the quality and the quantity of higher education. That is, help people get more higher education and help that higher education be of higher value. I can think of a lot of issues, challenges, blah, blah, blah. As an old liberal arts degree holder, I certainly care a lot about the liberal arts, and I think we need to be careful about picking those liberal arts degrees under the rug. That said, we have what, the major accreditation association? Is it HLC, the
It's the largest, I believe.
largest one? We got 4 states out there that done something. I think it's important that we take the initiative as you all would have us do, as opposed to just wait and just see what happens.
Well, my waiting was on them. In other words, how many of you have interest in advancing this? That was my question. Not that we wait for some outside agency.
I didn't see it that way. But to me, it's incumbent upon us in this profession to be open-minded to new ways to educate people, including, these 2 new programs. So count me in, Mr. Chair, as somebody who thinks that this is an important subject. And it's up to you, but I certainly want to hear about what our presidents and the chancellor think about this. But on the face of it, I would certainly think this is worthy of our best efforts to move forward on.
That actually was my question, is how many of them are interested in, I saw you raise your hand. I guess you are too, Rick. Okay. Again, I think that, I don't want this to be another initiative you all have to work on because we think it's cool. So, but you all raised your hand, so. Yes, sir.
Rusty, I do have a question. It's my ignorance, but you all also authorize a lot of private institutions to deliver degrees in this state. And how does this apply to them? And how does our current policy apply to them? I will start with that. And then if you don't change your policy, but some private institution or a national for-profit online entity wants to deliver something in the state that doesn't meet our criteria, can they do that?
I don't know that I know the answer to that. I can talk to my team who knows the regs much better than I do. As we are aware from an approval that was made just last month, if an out-of-state institution meets criteria, we have to give them the approval. But I will look into that and see if we can find some additional information.
Wouldn't surprise me that that's where you're going to get tested first.
Yeah. So I think generally they cannot, if we have a standard for all the public institutions, you can't require more from them. The complexity of this pathway is it's also called a bachelor's degree. And so that's where I see, we've had a hard time actually branding our degrees with employers. When an employer says, does someone have a degree? They almost always mean a bachelor's degree. So how do we give the nuance then of, well, it's a 90 credit hour, and then all of those issues. I think it's going to be very complex. And, for the institutions that we regulate, I would think we could keep it at 120 if that's what our policy said was but I know we couldn't require, but as soon as the publics went that way, then they would have that opportunity too.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so I guess Regent Mendoza, or Chair Mendoza, you just got volunteered to at least start to address this topic. With no necessary end in sight. You've heard some concern expressed by some of our members. And I do think we, of course, always need to embrace the new, but we do have to be careful that watching somebody else do something, we don't start making something happen more than we really would like, and the unintended consequences overwhelm us. So I would urge skepticism, but that's just me. So thank you. Appreciate the compelling topic. I think now's a good, maybe. Because we're about to go to fiscal, right? Okay, so we'll take a 15-minute break. Be back at 2:25. Board, I'm gonna start calling individuals out. They're standing talking. President Linton? Okay. Okay, thank you all. I'm just a little worried about getting ourselves in time trouble here. So that takes us to the fiscal part of the agenda, I believe. And the first order of business is the legislative proposal for bonding authority for Wichita State. I believe we're going directly to Kelly Oliver, right? Okay, Kelly, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Ice.
You.
We are on page 35, where Wichita State is requesting bonding authority of $60 million to finish their university stadium project in the replacement of Cessna Stadium. This is another non-budgetary legislative proposal that is coming before you this month, in addition to the ones we approved, or you approved last month. And I would stand for questions, or I would probably defer to President Muma if there are questions.
Well, I would remind everyone that fiscal reviewed this, I
Yes.
think, in detail, and
They have.
in their report told us that they were supportive of moving this. So
That's correct, Mr. Chairman, and from the beginning, I think for my fellow committee members, everybody still believes in, yeah, I'm on. Still obviously believes in this project and sees the value in it, knows how important it is to the future growth of the campus. The only initial questions were what general use revenues would be used, and we were assured that none will be used in this project. It's also important to point out, as Vice President Frisbee clarified this morning, in issuing the authority, or I guess the authority to bond up to $60 million, the university would still come back to us for official approval to officially draw down those bonds. So actually would get another opportunity to.
those are
That'd be correct.
both very important points. So thanks for making those. So any other questions from anybody, or any questions from anybody? Mr. Rolfe?
I'd move approval.
Okay.
Well, second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, here, and again, thanks for the good work of fiscal. I'm sure that makes everyone else more comfortable. So if without further discussion, all for approval, say aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next item is Dr. Lane. Again, do you have preamble or? Is Dr. Lane on the market-based tuition for the foundations in structured literary course in academic years 2025 and 26. And again, this was reviewed in fiscal in detail, right?
Good afternoon, Chair Ice, Board. Happy New Year. Glad to be here with you today. Today, we're coming forward asking you to consider a unified market rate tuition for the Foundations of Science of Reading, Equipping Educators in Structured Literacy course that has been developed by our Regents literacy faculty and our Washburn partnership. The course is now developed and in process of design so that it can be offered to our educators, pilot in March, and full opportunity for enrollment in June. This item is on page 37 of your board agenda. So be glad to answer any questions about the particular course, but what we are asking you to establish is this unified market rate tuition of $300 per credit hour. The course is 6 credit hours. The deans and I have conferred on this point and are in agreement that this is a fair rate so that all of our institutions are offering the course and not competing with each other based on tuition amounts. The Senate Bill 438 requires that we offer courses in the science of reading structured literacy at no cost to our Kansas educators who are currently practicing in classrooms. So this is before you today for consideration. And we're excited to be able to tell you that we will soon have this high quality impact course available to Kansas teachers.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Lane, I just commend you and your team for the rate of progress that you're making on this. Also, just really want to commend all of our institutions for working together on this, under your leadership. And when the time is appropriate, Mr. Chair, I will make.
Okay. That may be imminent, but so we'll see. Any other questions? Okay, I think the time is before us.
I would move for approval.
I'd second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor, aye, please?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Marker Bay. Thanks for all, I know you just heard this from Regent Benson, but thanks for all your work. Congratulations. Okay, we move to the other matters section of our agenda. I mentioned this in the chair's report. It's important that periodically we take a moment and think about what are we accomplishing with the investment we make. So that's what we're trying to do with this segment. It's divided between two. We're talking about university programs and one from each institution, and then an update on student success from each institution. So Dr. Smith from Fort Hays is first up. She's on Zoom, but she can still be first up. But thank you, because I could have looked around the room for a long time. The screen seems blank, however. Maybe should I? Oh, there we go. There we go. That was our reveal, wasn't it? Okay, all right.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, wonderful. Hi, my name is Dr. Tanya Smith. I serve as the Assistant Chair in the Department of Nursing at Fort Hays State University. I'm pleased to be here with you today to discuss the exciting advancements we are making in strengthening healthcare for Western Kansas. Following COVID, rural areas have seen an increased need for nurses, from clinics to hospitals, nursing homes, and mental health facilities. The need for nurses is astounding. During the last 2 years, faculty met regularly to discuss how to best meet this challenge to produce more nurses. Through these meetings, we determined that an expanded footprint of Stroop Hall, our nursing building, would allow us to admit more students, providing larger classrooms, increased lab space, and more rooms in our simulation hospital. Can advance the next slide. For fiscal year 2025, we received $15.4 million. $15 million in a one-time funding is dedicated to the expansion of Stroop Hall, and the project is currently in the design stage. PGAV Architects is the designer that was chosen for this project. The construction budget is $12.75 million. The project commenced on August 2024. The project bid date is May 2025, with the construction mobilization date being July of 2025. Owner occupancy is scheduled for January 2027. Next slide.
So that construction budget versus the project budget, does that mean there's some likelihood we come in lower than 15?
I'm not sure about that. Is Dr. Mason in the room? Could she answer that question?
It's 12,750,000 for the construction budget with a $15 million project.
Those were the numbers that were given to me from our construction people. So I guess I'm not 100% sure on that.
They're answering in the room. They just don't have mics, so you can't hear them. So I figured there was something more, but how does it eat the whole differential up?
15 million. Let's just hope it stays there.
I think I'm going to take the under, but okay.
Okay, so this slide is a blueprint that displays what we're looking to add. So the colored areas are the areas that will be renovated or added. The skills lab will be expanded to include 5 additional patient spaces. We'll also have additional storage. We will double the health assessment and simulation areas, including additional spaces for simulation debriefing. And then we will have 2 major classrooms that'll be added that can seat larger class sizes, and a larger space for student remediation will be created. Next slide. This is a projected visual of the southeast entrance of the renovated Stroop Hall. And next slide. And this is a new student entrance on the northeast corner of Stroop Hall that will allow for easier student access from the west parking lot and the main Fort Hays campus. Next slide. In June 2023, the Kansas State Board of Nursing approved Fort Hays' nursing program to move from admitting 65 to 90 students each year. Following funding approval by the Kansas legislature in June of 2024, Fort Hays requested and was approved to increase nursing student seats from 90 to 120 each year. Our intent with the additional increase in seats was to request it at this time to avoid additional future requests as our program continues to grow. At that June 2024 meeting, we also requested that all pre-licensure BSN nursing courses have the option of being delivered in a hybrid format. Our goal was to increase our on-campus cohorts from 30 to 40 students each semester, which we have currently implemented. And then adding an additional hybrid pathway allows students who do not reside in Hays, Kansas, or students who have barriers to on-campus education a route to achieve their BSN education. Next slide. We are incredibly proud of the progress of our faculty and staff transitioning the curriculum for a hybrid pathway that maintains excellence. Our hybrid pathway is set to start in fall of 2025. With this pathway, we plan to use online learning for the theory courses. The theory courses will be delivered virtually with synchronous opportunities for student faculty engagement, either online or face-to-face. The lab and practicum courses will be delivered face-to-face using in-person and synchronous virtual technology formats. The precepted and observation clinical experiences for each practicum would ideally be near the student's location, utilizing their local hospitals. And then the faculty-led experiences would be centrally located to the group of students we're serving at the time of the practicum. Our goal with the hybrid pathway is to admit a maximum of 10 students initially, beginning in fall of 2025. We plan to use those additional seats that we sought from KSBN as needed for either hybrid pathway or on-campus pathway. We're excited to report that the work that our faculty has done in previous semesters allowed them to feel comfortable in accepting applications for this fall. We are currently accepting applications for our hybrid cohort, and we've been advertising, and so far we've had a pretty good response. Again, we're going to keep our numbers smaller for this first route of our hybrid pathway. Next slide. For our on-campus program, we have increased our admissions from 60 to 80 students each year. In 2023, our fall 20th day enrollment data was at 110 students, while in 2024, it rose to 134 students. By fall 2027, we anticipate that number rising to 150 students. In addition, in 2024, we graduated 48 students, and we anticipate that by May of 2028, we will graduate over 80 students each year. Next slide. We have currently filled 2 faculty positions and will continue to add positions as cohort sizes increase. We are proud that a large number of our students serve rural areas. In reviewing our 2023 graduates for our on-campus pathway, 65% worked in a HRSA designated rural area and 61% worked west of I-135. Additionally, we have a 100% NCLEX pass rate for the last 3 semesters and a 100% employment rate. We're excited to impact students, healthcare facilities, communities, and ultimately patients in Western Kansas. Next slide. Thank you for allowing me to report on our progress of the Western Kansas Nursing Program expansion at Fort Hays State University. Does anyone have any questions that I or Dr. Mason can answer?
So if we look at the increases for a number of students, 65 to 90 to 120, hybrid and the construction, how much of an increase comes from the construction of the expansion of the building? What's the right way to think about that?
Yeah, so right now we're admitting 40 students every semester, but we are constricted with our classroom sizes. So we have to utilize classrooms outside of our area per se. And we would like to expand those cohorts even more, but right now without the new addition and without those larger classroom sizes, we're just not able to.
What does that become then? 40 to what?
We don't
If someone
know
were to say,
yet.
if someone were to say, how many students do we get for our $15 million? What would the answer be?
Well, ultimately, hopefully we can get up to 120.
So, okay, well, I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
was fair to say. So
Yeah.
that's 80. That's tripling the number. You'd feel comfortable saying that?
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, in the end,
we're
we
all-
have to gradually grow.
We're only talking about the BSN.
Right.
So
Okay.
there are other aspects of nursing that we're driving those numbers up in Western Kansas, and as well as allied health is part of that building expansion as well.
Okay. Does that mean it's more than 80?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I guess I should say anybody else has questions. Thank you very much. Appreciate you
you.
batting lead off too. Oh,
Thanks.
okay, Dr. Tomlin, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Ice. And I'm waiting for my presentation.
Oh, I thought you were waiting for me to say hi back. Hi.
I'm assuming somebody's got it. Oh, there it is. And let me make sure my clicker works.
And just,
So,
I'm sorry, but process check wise, your guidelines were how long? How long do you think you all present? 7 minutes? Okay. All right. That's precise. Okay. 5 to 7. Okay.
I'll go quick.
I'm not looking for you to go quick. I just want to,
So
just want to manage the time.
I wanted to highlight just some of the updates that we've had since last year. Most of our investments involve around research, right? You just saw one involving around classrooms and around academics. Ours are revolve around research. So give you a couple little background slides, just how we're a little bit different is, just so we're all talking the same language here, is how do you define innovation? Most people say that you define it one of two ways, either a technology push or market pull. So technology push models, what basic universities typically do. It's how the Department of Defense arranges their budget. So if you go look at the president's budget and you go into the Department of Defense, they have 6.1 through 6.7 research topics. For the Air Force, the Navy, it's arranged in a technology push model where you have research, you have development, and then it goes to production and marketing. So most basic research universities run that way. Wichita State does not. So we run in a market pull model where the market has a need, we do development, we do manufacturing, then we do sales. So easy way to say it is we find solutions to existing problems. So everyone get the difference there. So my estimates for WSU is we still do basic research. We're probably 15%, but the market pull side is 85%. So it just gives you some background. So we're not your traditional research model. We have 9,000 students working in applied learning, making $35 million a year. So that's the applied learning model that we have. The magic of this model is how we do this. So I made this slide, and I don't think very many of you have seen this slide. So we go to industry, we go to government, and we define a problem. What problem needs solved? Then we're a solution provider. So we're a solution provider. We provide a solution to that problem. We inject students in there, undergrad students. So typically in a basic research model, you do graduate students. We do undergrad students. We do graduate students too, but most of ours are undergraduate students. We eject them in there. Then we scale, we solve the problem basically. But the benefit of that also is at the end of the problem, we eject a workforce that knows how to solve a problem that's very adaptable to industry. So you scale this. So I tell all the faculty, all the researchers, don't worry about the number. Just solve the problem, because what will happen is what I call a snowball effect. You solve a $50,000 problem, they'll come back and say, you did pretty good on that. Can you solve a $200,000 problem? Yeah, and then that's that middle one. And then it's a snowballs. Well, now can you solve a $2 million problem? And so if you look at our success rate, what we've done, it's just highlighted there. So we keep on ejecting students out of that. So you haven't seen this slide. So our herd survey last year we reported 366 when I was here. That was our projected number. We're going to be close to 402 next year. So $402 million worth of research. So how does that work with investments? So that's what you wanted me to talk about is investments. Is if you look at that 402, we get about $22 million worth of state investments if you add them all up in research. How does that leverage out? It's a 17-to-1 leverage. So if you look at, and it's pretty diverse portfolio, which makes me happy. I think it makes the president happy because we're not dependent on one industry, right? So we got industry, we got federal DOD, we got non-federal DOD. That 10%, which is the other, you'll hear some institutions talk about institutional research, private and foreign sources. That's in that other slice, which for WSU is about $40 million. So what has those investments done? So NSF just in November came out with their HERD survey. And so I've had this job for going on 22 years now. So every president before President Muma has said, what's it going to take to be number one? I want to be number one. So last year we did it. So we are the number one aerospace research R&D group in the United States of America. I finally beat, I did not think I could ever beat Georgia Tech, but we beat them last year. So $33 million, we beat Georgia Tech. So now we have that top slot. Now that you have the top slot, people want to knock you off, just like I wanted to knock Georgia Tech off. So I got to hold on to it. So if you look at all engineering R&D, we're number 2 behind SUNY. But I wanted to show this ranking as well. Is if you look at, bless you, if you look at all the engineering schools, where they rank as far as engineering R&D, we broke into the top 10. We're number 8 now. As you can see, Johns Hopkins is number 1, 1.4 billion now, and then Georgia Tech is a billion. But then both of those are what we call UARCs, so they're kind of special. They run, like Johns Hopkins runs the applied physics lab for the United States government out of there. So you gotta look at those two a little bit differently, but then you see the other, Texas A&M, Pennsylvania State, MIT, University of Texas, Purdue, and Wichita State. So we broke into the top 10 as well. What those investments have done. So, and if you look back at my presentation last year, this one was black. I said, I have a big announcement that's going to happen. This happened in December. We got awarded from the Sierra Nevada Corporation. It is our most significant industry contract in the history of WSU. But if you look at what is the largest industry contract in the history of the United States of America, you'll research it. The largest contract ever between an industry and an institution was actually the MIT, and it was from IBM. It was $250 million to create the Watson computer. That's the top slot. We took the top slot. So, and the DoD does not want me to publicly say in a meeting what that number is, but it's blew past them like they're in a parking spot. So largest contract of between an industry and an academic institution in United States history happened.
Congratulations.
So that's to create this aircraft. It's the Secretary of Defense's aircraft, but it's also part of our nuclear triad. One's always in the air, and it controls our nuclear arsenal. In case we're in a first strike situation, we get taken out first strike. This airplane ensures that our deterrence. So we're going to build 4 of those with Sierra Nevada. The next one is also happened because the state made an investment, and this is the MRO investment that the state made, is the bomber fleet. Now Wichita State is tied to the Department of Defense, pretty much the entire bomber fleet of the United States of America. So you got the B-1, you got the B-52, and what I didn't report last year is we now have the B-2 bomber. So their work in the next 7 years, that will be over $1 billion worth of work, keeping those bombers in the air. So again, pretty special for a university. It works its way up through the Secretary of Defense's office, and it just, why is there a university? Why are we sending a bomber to a university? And it stops them in the Pentagon of what's going on, and it's different. So, and we're training students. We're doing this on, well, yes. Why shouldn't we? It changes America. So, other investments is this is a Pillar 3 investment. Is we always wanted to have this metric of what are the direct jobs created from Pillar 3. So Pillar 3 is our book together. And so in 2019, we developed a baseline. So we said we were going to look at new jobs and new direct investments. We established a pre-COVID baseline of 2019. And you can see net new jobs and net direct investments of the baseline of 2017. We were going to measure it 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years. And all universities in our system are going to do this. We estimated what we wanted to be, and that's in our estimate that we gave to you. And then this is a report on that we just gave to you is what our actuals are. So you can see we have that net new jobs, we beat that, and direct investment, we beat that as well. So over $1 billion of direct investment. How that broken down is the net new jobs, which is 3,300 jobs, digital transformation, NIR, and then the Innovation Campus. So when you were at the Innovation Campus in October, you saw the ATF, you saw NetApp. So those are those jobs. But President Flanders and I have had this conversation. This is not an exact science. So what's missing in those numbers? And I just wanted to highlight some of those because every university is going to have this problem. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, is like OEM job growth. So if you look at like Spirit or Textron, OEM job growth that's linked to WSU research. That's a hard number to get your hands around. So I go to the Spirit CEO and I say, hey, Board of Regents really wants me to put a number on this of jobs. And then I get the CEO say, well, John, you know what we did, the 787. You were completely involved. I'll count every job. Great. Count 3,000 jobs related to the 787. That's great. Can we put it on a piece of paper so I can show the board? Well, I think we can. Then it goes to, whoa, that'll affect our stock price. We can't do that. So let's give them some jobs, but we can't give them all the jobs. But even though the truth is somewhere in the middle of there, but so that just goes one example. Another one is new Kansas company attraction outside the Innovation Campus, what you've seen linked to our workforce and our research. So one of those, I just left them yesterday, example is a company called Launch. They're out of Chicago. They're an MRO company that works on airplanes. They never would have even dreamed about coming to Wichita if we did not have that investment from the state of an MRO. Now they're looking at expanding, and they just got a new capital infusion of funds, round 2 funding, and they want to expand Wichita. So that is totally related to us. Another one that you'll find hard is, you might have read this in the news, Bell Helicopter. Bell Helicopter is going to build the new helicopter for the Army. Production rates are going to be huge, 2,500 helicopters. Well, with Senator Moran and with NIR's been there all along, is we're going to get the fuselage production in Wichita, Kansas. Even though they took it from Spirit, Bell's going to stand up their own company in Wichita, and we're directly tied with that. So, but how do you count that? I don't know. I mean, it's there. New Kansas startups. I mean, if you look at Kansas Modification Center, we help birth that company. So as it grows, those jobs will be totally linked to us. And then existing companies. So if you look at all that bomber work, the United States Air Force needed parts, which you'll hear me talk about parts right here in just a second, is parts. And if you look at all the machine shops that exist in Kansas, South Central Kansas, that support the aviation industry and has since the 1940s, very few of them make DoD parts. So they gave WSU the contract. We said, we're going to make them at home. So the money flowed through WSU. Then I flowed out $30 million to machine shops existing in the Wichita area. Well, naturally, those small machine shops, which is in Augusta, in Rose Hill, Kansas, they're elated to have the work, but does that mean jobs? Heck yeah, that means jobs. Well, so that's another effect that these metrics don't typically catch. So the truth is somewhere in the middle, as Dr. Flanders said. So just wanted to highlight that. Where we're going, this is close to my end. So where we're going, I like this slide. Regent Roth saw this in another version when we were at Wichita, but if you look at Wichita State in a nutshell of one slide of how did we grow from our first steps of being the University of Wichita to where we are now, it followed the Industrial Revolution. And if you look at that from Industrial Revolution 1.0, steam power to electrification to robotics, if you look at that, Wichita and Kansas kind of entered in at Industrial Revolution 2.0. That built the factory and Freedom's Forge that we know as Spirit right now. But WSU has always followed that with the industry. But if you look, what concerns me in Vision Forward is look at the years that it took to go from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and now we're right in that transition of 3 to 4, entering 4, but 4 to 5, it's always halved. So you have to be on the leading edge of that. And that's what we've done with the Innovation Campus strategy, is that you'll hear me telling about digital information. That's that industry 5.0, 4.0, 5.0. But as you know about the Innovation Campus and the president with KU launched the biomedical campus, we have to do a repeat of what we did with the Innovation Campus. We have to do the same thing with the biomedical campus, focused around digital transformation. We don't want to be huge in cancer research, anything like that, but it's the digital transformation part. Everyone has these wearables. So if I look around, wouldn't it be great if you go into the doctor and says, let me download your watch, and or your watch says, go to the doctor. I think you're gonna have a heart attack. So that's the type of health things that we're going to be pursuing from a research-wise in the digital transfer, telehealth. So if you look at the biomedical campus, we're already focused on that before the first brick is laid. So this is my ending slide.
We probably need to wrap up.
Okay. You gave me a bonding authority, which I thank you very much. You added that for this Hammer building, which was also an estate investment. So the federal investment did 50%, state did 22%, and then you gave us the ability for the university to close the gap of 70 million. So that Hammer building, you saw it going up. It is a building that has a purpose. It's additive building. Lots of people have what is additive? This is, everybody watches SpaceX launches. So this shows you additive in one picture. First generation Raptor engine, second generation, third generation. All this was made possible by additive, where the best part is no part. Because you think of that first one, how many things can go wrong with that engine compared to the number 3 version? So you see what the power of that is. What we're doing here with the United States military is taking any part that exists on any piece of hardware and being able to look at it from additive. And Chairman Ice, this is my last slide.
I probably didn't know what last meant.
I wanted to highlight this one because Defense Logistic Agency, they're a $5.5 billion budget. They control 1.8 million parts. They have never had a contract with a university ever before. So this agency does exist. They run parts for 2,400 aircraft. So there's a process where if they can't get a part, it becomes what they call a 339 part. $400 million worth of parts last year that we cannot get on any aircraft. No one will make them. So what they did is approach Wichita State and say, can you create these TDPs, which is technical data packages for these parts? And it's harder than you think, because my example is Lockheed. They make the F-22. There's 28 parts that Lockheed can't make. It's out of production. They had somebody make it for them. That company's moved on or no longer existent, so they can't make it. For the F-100 engine, there's 33 parts that came. So that's what we're doing. They're right now putting $100 million into an OTA to create these TDPs. That is that Hammer building. So I wanted to show you the purpose of that. So thank you. Thank you for longer than my 7 minutes. Questions?
It's not. So, okay. Thank you. Thank you. We know.
Yes, sir.
We know you're passionate. You had a lot of great accomplishments. So look forward to more. Quick.
No, I will make it clear. In your chart showing where we are in the top 10, I noticed that all of the other institutions.
Yes, sir.
So that kind of, not only because it's great stuff, but having research like
Yes, sir. I agree with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Great job. Appreciate what you're doing. Hey, Dr. Burnett.
Good afternoon, Regents. I'm Tim Burnett. I'm the Dean of the School of Science and Mathematics. Thank you for the opportunity today for us to share some information about an investment aimed to address a critical need for our state, which is creating more science and mathematics teachers. The Smart Kansas 21 project is investment of $500,000 a year, and to recruit, to support, and to train the future science and math teachers. We're about 18 months into this, so probably the most significant thing that I've done associated with it is hire a fantastic person to coordinate the program. So I'm going to turn this presentation over to her, introduce you to Kimberly Ideas.
Good afternoon. Like he said, we're in the beginning days, is what it feels like. I actually moved here in August, so that's how long I've been working on it. I was excited to hit the ground running for math and science teachers in the state of Kansas. I'm a former science teacher. My husband is a math teacher, so it's something that's near and dear to our heart. Really wonderfully, this Smart Kansas 21 funding allowed us to give $226,000 to freshmen through senior level students, including 7 of those this year are in their culminating student teacher semester, and they got $11,000 allocated to them for that semester only. Our hope is that through that funding, they will just be able to focus on becoming a really great teacher rather than having to do their student teaching, rush home, maybe change, and go work another job. I don't know if any of you have ever done student teaching. It's exhausting. So really allowing those baby teachers, is what I like to call them, to really get their feet under them and learn as much as they can. This year we have 36 students in our Bachelor's of Science and Education for math and then the sciences for secondary schools. And then so far, hopefully, we have projected for 65 students to receive a little over $289,000 next year, just based on how my graduated scale works. We also fund student internships where they get job-ready experiences where they work with fellow students. They work with our high school students as tutors who are in our dual credit program. And then other really great things that we have helped students get experiences through supporting Math Day, where we brought 500 students, high school students, to campus to is the most math nerdy thing that you can imagine. They did competitions and did a math escape room, just getting kids excited about math, right? And doing math and how they can do that at a high level. in next month, we have Sonia Kowaleski Day, where it's bringing the top women in math to campus to celebrate their accomplishments. I got to take a couple students, 4 students to New Orleans to the NSTA conference. And then we have a couple of students who are also going to Kansas City next month for a math conference as well. So we're really trying to infuse some of that community of practice for our students and help them learn from other expert educators so that they will feel empowered to jump into the classroom to fill the number of vacancies that we have across the state, and really be ready to take that on and stay as educators in our workforce. A few other things that we're doing, we're putting our middle level undergrads, so sophomores and juniors, creating micro internship experiences for them. I am working on some praxis support for them. That's the licensure exam that they have to take in order to teach their content area. And then with the help of TK, who you'll meet in just a moment, we have new teacher learning communities, just really building that first year support, not only with other first year teacher educators, but the ones who are upper level and interested in the same kind of idea so they can figure out and learn from each other, build that community within our school. So that's what we've been doing. Any questions?
I just see you're doing it. Numbers are our friends after all.
Yes. Yes.
Any questions?
Question, Mr. Chairman. With the scholarships and internships, is there any kind of expectation that they stay in the community, stay in the state for a certain number of years?
It is pretty open. We definitely encourage them to stay in Kansas. At our current situation, it's hard to put limitations on people who want to be teachers. What I have found, though, is a lot of them are interested in heading back toward where they were from, and giving back to those communities, which is pretty incredible. So, thank you. Yeah. Absolutely.
Look forward to more great things. So, Dr. Rush, are you okay? Didn't see her.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Rush. I'm the Dean of the College of Veterinary Medicine. I do not sing in a rock band, but I'm willing to audition later today if you're interested. I'm happy to report that just hours ago, I learned that we received full accreditation, no major or minor deficiencies for the next 7 years. So that happens every 7 years.
That's pretty good timing.
Pretty excellent timing, yeah. I'm here to report on a $5 million supplement, and I have to wait for my slides. Okay, there we are. So you can see this supplement started in FY23, and in the early years, we renovated facilities to be able to attract faculty, and then we needed funding to support their startup funds, and now we are exclusively funding research-intensive faculty salaries with the supplement. Slide advance. How do we advance the slides? Okay, try that. The research that we do that separates us from our peers is our ability to do infectious disease research on livestock, both domestic diseases as well as transboundary diseases. We're also very good at emerging diseases. And to give you an example, for COVID, we brought in about $12 million in research dollars and 175 publications based on our faculty's work with COVID. The next emerging disease that came up is influenza in dairy cattle, and our faculty were able to identify that the transmission was through milking, and that's how the workers were getting infected, and that's how the cow-to-cow transmission was happening. That disease was identified in March of 2024, and by September of 2024, our faculty had a publication in Nature. It doesn't get any bigger than that, about avian influenza. Okay, still, oh, there we go. I would, evergreen. It's evergreen as far as I know. Recurring, yes. Yeah, recurring. We report every year since 2013. Yeah. We have essentially doubled our research awards since that time and increased the number of overhead that we're able to capture. So now we can fund our own startups. And we're hanging out at about 300 manuscripts a year from the college. We were able to start 2 new master's programs. One is a 1-year master's with the intent of the students matriculating into professional school. 94% of them do matriculate to professional school. And we started a new online MPH program. The MPH graduates are staying in Kansas largely, and they're getting jobs, and the jobs are well funded. We've had 8 PhD graduate students that were funded by the USDA with the intent that they will work in NBAF one day. 5 of them have matriculated to NBAF. 3 will be there by June. So we will end that particular program. The PhD programs have been pretty stable because we have less faculty than we even had in 2013. Based on research impact, I know this is hard to see, but we are 6th in the country, 15th in the world. Based on our research impact, and Iowa State's just below us. Missouri is off the scale, off the slide on the bottom. These are 2024 research awards, and the first 2 are really, really big. Jürgen Richt, who's a Regents professor, is going to be inducted into the National Academy of Medicine. Does not get any bigger than that. And Dr. Hans Kutsia was just notified that he'll be awarded a National Academy of Science award in food and agriculture. And there's only 1 awarded in the country, so those are big. The 2 on the bottom are student awards that are also really, really a big deal. So we've been able to get a lot of faculty recognition based on their support.
Congratulations to all of them.
Thank you. Yeah.
When did Dr. Coetzee find out? Did he know when we saw him in November?
No, we learned it's a secret.
Oh, probably not much anymore.
It's a secret.
Okay.
April. We will make a large splash in April.
I don't know what you're talking
We did some, you can tell them congratulations, absolutely. We had a renovation that ended up with an additional 5,000 square foot shell. And so we wrote an NIH grant, $3.4 million for a core research facility. And I think the reason this grant was funded is because of the infrastructure that we have between the vet school, the Biosecurity Research Institute, and NBAF. And it was funded and it's built, and we did the ribbon cutting in October. And we're really excited about this core research facility and what it will be able to do for our infectious disease researchers. Just a few performance indicators about the college. We had over 2,200 applications for 120 seats. The 4-year graduation rate is over 90%, 6-year really, really close to 100%. National board pass rate is far above the national average. Employment rate is exceptional. We've doubled the total endowment for the college and more than doubled the scholarship endowment in the last 7 years. This is where it's hard, and boy, it's harder to read than I thought it would be. These are all the vet schools in the United States and how many faculty they have. And this data report in 2017 said that we have 140 faculty and the average vet school has 160. Fast forward to 2024, 2025, we have 114 faculty. That's the lowest number on this list. The average vet school has 165 faculty. And Oklahoma State, who is, they're pretty close to our numbers. They are on probation with accreditation because of their faculty numbers. So we are in a tight spot, but we've been able to be resilient and really persevere despite that information. So thank you for the supplement. We don't know what we'd do without it. Happy to take any questions.
A lot of impressive information. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
Dr. Nacarado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity today to speak about our prove-out facility and particularly how we've progressed in that and how it fits into our broader mission, vision of making life better for all in Southeast Kansas and beyond. I'll also tap dance here for a second to wait for a presentation. I'll give a little bit of a background as they're pulling that up. The seeds of this facility were planted, I think, with the Tyler Research Center, our investment in polymer research, the then investment from the state in polymer chemistry initiative. We've built on these things consistently. And then about 4 years ago, I don't know, COVID has screwed up time for everybody, but it was about 4 years ago, we were working with NIST and talking to them about what sorts of things from MEP, NIST, and the manufacturing side of things, what really is the vital need that we could build around. And what we were told from, I think it was the number 2 at NIST and MEP, was that this country lacks prove-out facilities to support manufacturing production. Particularly those that are associated and connected to universities with all of the resources with regard to entrepreneurialism, economic development, et cetera, and research, of course. And so we had our core research that many of you know, Dr. Gupta, Ram Gupta, who is now 2 years in a row been acknowledged as the top 2% scientist in the world. So fortunate to have him on our team. He has recruited 2 additional top 2% scientists in the world. So we're starting to grow, I refer to it as the Gupta group, of course, but we're starting to grow a real concentration of expertise, particularly in the area of electroactive materials, semiconductors, batteries. That's really what we're talking about here. So again, the timing could not be better as far as the alignment on that. NIST MEP told us that they needed these and that the biggest challenge one of the biggest challenges for innovation-based technology and technology-based growth in manufacturing in this country is the lack of prove-outs. So let's say that someone has a back-of-the-napkin idea, they get through prototype phase, you've looked at all of the market study aspect of this, and then you need to get that initial product run of 1,000 units, 10,000 units, whatever that is. Most American manufacturers, almost no American manufacturer will do short runs of that quantity, and if they do, the cost is prohibitive for entrepreneurs and those who are trying to expand product development. Most of those things end up going overseas, and we all know the perils of that. Number one, of course, it's not American labor. You're exploiting labor in other places and terrible standards, and you also have the situation of intellectual property concerns. So with that, we set out to build a facility that could support the growth of Southeast Kansas and beyond, and I can't get this to work. Let's see. I think John might have run the batteries out. Oh, I'm not blaming you. Okay, here we go. So this fits. I also wanted to point out very clearly that this is not a one-off situation for us. It's fit into our broader mission and vision. And if you want to say a mosaic, puzzles, if you're an attorney and you remember property class, the sort of bundle of sticks, the point being is that they're trying to keep together a tight connectivity of different projects and initiatives that are going on, not in exclusion or in isolation. So this fits in very strongly with what we will be launching. We're calling it the STEM Forward Initiative at Pittsburgh State University that encompasses not just the prove-out facility, but the KBI facility. In addition to that, our STEM hospital, which we had already completed, our intent to substantially invest in and leverage toward academic and research lab improvements and on and on. And so if we go to the next stage here, we're looking at almost 25,000 square feet additional high bay production space that we focused on, again, the proving out of a lot of the science. You can think in the terms of the existing side of the building really being focused on science, moving into engineering. That's really what we're talking about here, engineering, and then we can plug in students also not only from College of Technology, but you think in terms of College of Business and otherwise to create design thinking teams that can solve real world problems for businesses and drive economic growth and prosperity. It's a key, this is going to be a key driver in our emerging R&D park. We currently have between the nearly $60 million KBI facility, this facility at $14 million, we have nearly $75 million in active development going on at our new, what will be our emerging research and development park. We have slated an additional electroactive materials research facility that we will be seeking to fund over the next years. And then in addition, while we can't, similar to the other secrets that we're not supposed to say out loud, we're in final discussions with a top tier DoD-related battery manufacturer who is interested in relocating to Pittsburgh and could be 50 plus jobs. So this is the real work of economic growth and prosperity through Pillar 3 work. And we're so excited to be able to do that for our community and our region and to give access to our students to top tier opportunities. In addition to this sort of mosaic notion is how we're collaborating in partnership. Right now, we are actually a finalist with our partner WSU as the lead on an NSF Engines proposal that we are now among the 70 finalists for that. This prove-out facility, the timing was great that we had that because it fits very nicely into an NSF Engines proposal based in aerospace and advanced manufacturing. When we pair that with the work that we're doing with the Foundry Initiative throughout the region to connect communities, chambers, economic developers throughout the region, we believe that this all together can synergistically lead to more opportunity and growth for our region. So you see the core focus that we're looking toward is expansion of research and development opportunities, paving the way for additional industry partnerships, bringing education and workforce needs together, and positioning PSU as a leader in innovation in battery technology, and specifically for the state and the nation. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Questions, anyone? Thanks for the update. Lots of good things happening. Thank you.
All right, thank you all very much.
Dr. Calbus. I hope I had the right pronunciation.
You did it
Oh,
well.
that's
Yeah, Mr.
excellent.
Chairman, thank you for having me back. Regents, thank you for having me back. It's great to be here. I'll wait for the slides and I'll get rolling. There we go. And this is gonna be click intensive, so yeah, it looks like I have control. So this is all gonna be about the Geological Survey, and I'm calling this Impact Through Science. And what I wanna do is kind of frame what we're doing. I'm gonna do it quickly with 160 years of history in about 30 seconds. And then I really want to concentrate on a single example of how technology comes together to the benefit of our families, our businesses, and our economy. This is Benjamin Mudge. He had my job 160 years ago. His portrait's in the state capitol. He was the first state geologist of the state of Kansas. At that time, geological resources, this was really about geological mineral mapping. And it was about making a survey of the water and mineral resources of the state of Kansas. I would say, though, his job was largely the same as mine. It was to bring technologies, the best technology of the day, to the benefit of the people of the state. Now, fast forward to 2025. This is what geology looks like now. It's water resources and geohealth. It's geographical, geological archives and libraries, taking care of and curating the priceless collections that we have that represent our subsurface. It's energy and critical minerals. It's hazards, geologic hazards, and applied geophysics for those hazards. And it's applications of information technology and applications of geographical information systems. Things like our 911 services all relate back to the geological and geospatial information that we have. So these are the technologies. This is the technological portfolio. And I would say that every one of those individual centers of focus, especially at the scale that the Geological Survey, the Kansas Geological Survey applies them, we're one of the largest in the country and certainly the most prolific. Any one of those would be a center or an academic department or unit unto themselves. The key, though, is the combination of all of the above, and that's where the magic happens for the state of Kansas. And I'll give some examples. So the Geological Survey, we have a staff count of around 170 individuals. About 60 of those are state funded. And then we more than double that with grant funded individuals, both permanent students, internships, as well as students working in temporary jobs, and then temporary employees. How does that manifest in research and applications? So around $53 million in research grant funds from roughly 2018 to the present. Hundreds and hundreds of reports filed, of journal articles, presentations in and around the state and across the country. This is an interesting one. We did the research, and it looks like we do around 670,000 industry well-logged downloads every year. Come from the Kansas Geological Survey out into Kansas businesses. These are largely oil and gas, energy companies, as well as manufacturing, mineral aggregates, et cetera. We have a seismic monitoring system in the state of Kansas that rivals any in the country, including Hawaii, California, Alaska. And it's because of the work that the survey's done. We've been rebuilding the survey from a positions perspective, thanks to the funding that was provided to us 2 years ago. We've added 14 net positions. Those have centered in water resources, energy, geohealth, and geographical information systems. And we're deploying and developing new technologies. And I want to kind of augur into that with one good example. This is southwestern Kansas. So the
auger in there, that was good.
Oh yeah, that is good. Nice. Unintentional, but
I'm sure.
But using geological terms in everyday speech is a hobby of mine. So this is the border of Kansas and Colorado, and then the border with Oklahoma. So this is southwestern Kansas. I'm now highlighting the points of diversion. These are industrial scale water wells. These are the water wells that go into industrial scale irrigation as well as industrial scale manufacturing. There are roughly 30,000 points of diversion on this map. And we know that because the Kansas Geological Survey Information Technology folks wrote software in combination, in collaboration with the Department of Agriculture, so that we know exactly where those points of diversion are and exactly how much water is pumped every single year. So that's sort of job number one. That equates to about 2.4 million acre feet, and that equates to 782 billion gallons of water used every year just inside that map, okay? The other way to think of this map is that it's a quantification of all townships, all cities, all businesses, all agriculture, both the irrigated agriculture as well as livestock is represented by this water. So job number one, identify how much water we use. This map is one that I think you've seen before. It's a pretty famous map. It's updated every single year with work actually that the survey did last week in the freezing weather. We go out and we measure the High Plains Aquifer, the Ogallala Aquifer, at around 1,500 individual locations to measure the water table. What's the water table doing? And it's not a good story over industrialization, over essentially from the 1950s till now. We've used in parts of this, angry red parts on this map, about 60% or more of the water is gone from the High Plains Aquifer. Okay, so that represents a scary story. But our job is not just to identify the problem, it's to come up with practical solutions, just as Mr. Mudge did 160 years ago. So finding practical solutions, not just stop irrigating or stop using water, that doesn't cut it. It's how do we reduce in a way that still sustains economic development. That's where this graph comes in. And without getting too geeky about it, what you're looking at is on the x-axis, you're looking at the total irrigated water use. So that's that file essentially of how much water we're using. The y-axis on this graph is the annual water level change. And by surveying that data in granularity, we're able to identify the locus of how much water are we using in a particular area. And that's the important thing, very, very narrowly down into the township scale. How much water are we using? And how does that water use equate to a number of water level decline for that area? Because it's very different in different areas. And what that allows us to do, we can also quantify a point on that map for the aquifer where you would have no water level decline, and that's called Q stable. And what this represents in this case for this township, and this happens to be in northwestern Kansas, is a required reduction of about 17% of the water usage. So it's not you have to stop irrigating, it's to achieve sustainability for water use in this area, your number is 17.5% reduction. Businesses can use that when they come in and start to develop. They can put aside 17.5% water, and right from the get-go, they're achieving sustainability from the perspective of water. I like to say that I have no idea what people's sleep number, you've seen the sleep number commercials. I have no idea what your sleep number is, but I can definitely tell you what your aquifer number is, and it's thanks to this type of survey work. The important thing is that irrigators and businesses can take action based on these kinds of data. And they can make those actions in the interest of their region and their business. Now, what's the next step? And I want to kind of lead into the next giant leap. So this is a helicopter fuselage, and the big buoy here, the big ring array, is a resistivity instrument. This is called airborne electromagnetic surveying, and this is the next big thing in aquifer science, aquifer geoscience. We worked for over a year with, in this case, the Groundwater Management District number 4 in Northwest Kansas to, number one, come up with plans for deploying this technology, worked with the individuals and the individual landowners to make sure that everybody understood what this flight would look like. And then we went ahead and executed the first airborne electromagnetic survey last year. What that allows us to do is generate cross sections and models like this one, where we're not only looking at the water table now, but we're looking at and integrating the water level, the water table, with the actual geology in the subsurface. And what that allows us to do, and we're partnered with Stanford University in this, what this allows us to do is to develop fully three-dimensional models of the High Plains Aquifer, fully three-dimensional models of the Ogallala. What that allows us to do is to model potential outcomes, model precipitation changes, model what the impact of this business versus the impact of this business could be in 3 dimensions in the aquifer. So this is the real game change. We have dozens of examples like this. This is just one in water quantity. We've stood up the first ever statewide water quality monitoring system for 2025 standards in partnership with Health and Environment. We do water availability work. We do GIS work. A great example of that is the Kansas 911 operator system, so that we have seamless geospatial information for every 911 operator in the state of Kansas. We do earthquake detection and risk hazard assessments. We're working on energy portfolio growth, namely in the oil and gas industry, but also in clean energy development. That then translates into impacts in industry and commerce. So things like new economic development. A good one that I've been very focused on is Kansas's hydrogen economy. So we've been working, for example, with Johnson County and Douglas County in hydrogen development and integration. Critical minerals, working with Department of Transportation on road building materials, and then of course water management plans. So all of that impact comes through the funding and comes through the support of this institution and the Kansas legislature. I'm happy to stand for questions if there's time.
There's time. Questions? Okay.
Are you working with K-State and with the Water Institute?
We are, yes. A really good example of that. We've worked with KDHE to stand up the statewide water quality program. That's laboratory intensive, that's infrastructure intensive. We can do hundreds of samples. We've just taken our first set of about 200 samples. To scale that up to where we want to go, though, thousands of samples every year, that's going to take really interaction with Fort Hays State, Wichita State, K-State, scale up and things like that. It's going to come from partnerships with other institutions.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Who in Stanford are you working with for this?
I am blanking on her name.
Okay.
Apologies.
Ademo Bagunjo, he's one of the data scientists.
No, it's not. It's our water resources, our water scientists. One of our senior most scientists is a Stanford scholar, and Rosemary Knight is her name at Stanford that we work with.
Thanks for all the good information. We enjoyed seeing you on site.
Enjoyed having you out.
Just recently. I guess that was last year. This went.
Describe your relationship with Kansas oil and gas industry.
A
lot about water. Are you meeting their needs?
There are companies who tell us that they spend every day, all day on the Kansas Geological Survey's oil and gas mapper. So there are companies, many companies that really truly rely on the data that we bring. We're closely knitted in with the oil and gas industry. We just had a large series of presentations at their annual meeting, and did training events for them to show them the next version of the oil and gas mapper, which integrates hundreds of thousands of wells worth of data. So that's sort of on the data provided perspective. The other side is advancing technologies. So doing things like we have a scientist who's been working to deploy the latest technologies in downhole mineral mapping in wells. And we've partnered with Kansas oil and gas drillers, drilling companies, as well as service companies to go and deploy those techs. So yeah, we're well integrated with the oil and gas industry here.
Thank you.
It's a presentation.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Okay, so I think we're gonna have to adjust a little bit. We have a hard stop because of the state of the state, and we want to get our student affairs discussion in. So I think what I'd suggest is we go to item 3, do 3, 4, and 5, come back to student success. I'd ask those of you who are here every time to volunteer to go at the end, and we'll do as much as we can. And then at least that way, nobody's made an individual trip that they come back again. So does that make sense? I have to make a motion to that? No. Awesome. Okay, so Fred Patton. Here. Okay. You might miss your slot there.
Good to see everybody. Well, they are back, which is good, right? We get the opportunity to work with them, exciting things happening. Potential is limitless. As Dr. Flanders said, he talked last week to the Employee Compensation Committee, so that information's been conveyed to them. Good update on the need to provide raises to the system, not only because we've kind of been skipped or gotten half the raises that the rest of state employees have gotten, but then talk to them about compensation studies and how to make sure that you are all competitive in the marketplace. So that information was conveyed. Tomorrow, Dr. Lane will be in House Education to talk about literacy and the literacy centers. So that'll be the first opportunity for her to go back before a committee and talk. So we're looking forward to that.
So how do you think the compensation discussions went?
I think it went good. I mean, they didn't ask many
Thanks
questions.
that they were awesome.
But right. I think it was wonderful.
Best ever.
Visiting with the members afterwards, they appreciated the information. We kind of wondered what would they do with it. I thought maybe they'd issue a report or recommendations. They're simply going to issue a report that says, this is what we heard. So I'm not sure much will come from it directly, but at least now the information's in the record. And as we visit with members, we can talk about what's been shared. Your legislative priorities, we are working to finalize the legislation on those, hopefully get that introduced tomorrow in Senate Education. Next Tuesday in Senate Tax, there's a hearing on EBF, which I'm sure you've all been visiting about, at least individually, what that's going to look like. There's legislation that would do away with the property tax mill that goes towards that and replace it with some SGF funding. We're working on options. If that starts moving forward, what's a way to possibly address that? And so we're going to be ready to respond no matter what direction that goes. And then the last piece is the budget, which is, I shared with you before, it's a new process, or at least not one that's been done in recent times. In recent times, when I was there, you'd have both the House and the Senate would work through session, come up with a budget. Maybe both chambers would pass them, maybe not, and they'd end up in conference, and the conference committee would put a budget together. And that usually started with a recommendation from the governor. This session, they started in the fall, soliciting information themselves directly from agencies and, for example, from us. They introduced a bill on Monday, House Bill 2007, which basically is, well, for the most part, at least their goal was, this is where funding was in the last budget year. So starting with no enhancements, they are now going to work that bill, that process through the House side. We'll still appear in House higher ed budget over the next couple weeks. They will make recommendations. It'll go to appropriations. Appropriations will send a bill out.
They're hoping to complete this all on the House side by February 13th. And then like any other normal bill, it will go over to the Senate and it will work its way through the Senate process. And then they'll likely end back up in conference to make any tweaks. The governor will make her normal recommendations. Some of those will come out tonight. Her budget director will speak to a joint committee of House and Senate tomorrow, late morning, early afternoon, release her full budget, and then we'll go from there. It's yet to be seen what the legislature is going to do with her budget. I'm confident everyone's going to refer to it, but it didn't look like, at least in House Higher Ed budget the other day, they're going to spend a whole lot of time on her budget, so maybe treat it more like an amendment, or they'll at least be looking at it, but it's not going to be something they're going to dig into deeply. So all of us, including the legislature, is trying to figure out what that process looks like, and we'll navigate that over the coming days and weeks. Any questions?
Thank you. Thanks for what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
President Muma. Request to name a facility.
Yes, real quickly, Wichita State is requesting permission to name the main entrance of the Shocker Fly Lab in honor of Lynn and Sherry Nichols. And when fully constructed, it will be situated in the heart of the Innovation Campus and will establish the university as a leader in unmanned aerial systems, education, research, and development. You all already approved this for our capital improvement plan. This cutting-edge facility will serve as a hub for innovation and offering hands-on learning experiences that engage students across multiple academic disciplines. It will also elevate UAS education through course activities, industry-sponsored competitions, providing students with practical, real-world applications for their studies. Supporting this will also allow faculty-led research and development in drone technology, including advancements in aerodynamics, control systems, and sensor integration. As some of you may know, longtime supporters of Wichita State, Lynn and Sherry Nichols are deeply committed to education, innovation, and community advancement. Lynn Nichols is a retired chairman and CEO of Yingling Aviation and has made significant contributions to Wichita State and the aviation industry in the Midwest. And together with Sherry, they have consistently supported initiatives that drive student success and university growth. I respectfully request your approval.
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval. Nichols are great people, well deserved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approval of the naming, indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, President Linton, request to name a facility.
Good afternoon. Referencing a letter written December the 29th, 2024, where Kansas State University is requesting the approval to name the Beef Cattle Research Center in the College of Agriculture on our North Research Farms, formally designating it to the Doug Lau Beef Cattle Research Center. So the Beef Cattle Research Center actually contains three different components. It's a beef feedlot, it's a metabolism unit, and a feed mill and flaker unit to be able to produce the feed. If you look at page 26 in your board notebook, in the consent portion of the meeting today, we have approved that for the capital improvements and renovation of that facility. In total, it's about a $16 million project. With this contribution, we've now raised a little over $10.5 million, which allows us to move forward with two of the three components, which is the beef feedlot and the metabolism unit. All of this will be funded by private funds, and this is not a part of the Agricultural Innovation Project. This is a separate and different project. Doug was a prominent figure in the beef industry, had his bachelor's degree in animal science from Kansas State, and was known really as the core driver of U.S. premium beef and the success of that company as it was originally created and as it was developed over time. He was known as being a very strong advocate for the beef industry in the marketing of fed cattle, and also in the education and research for beef production. So Kansas State University and the Kansas State University Foundation fully support recognizing the Laus family generosity with this naming opportunity and ask for your approval.
you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I would like to note that the approval of the actual project was fast-tracked by Fiscal Affairs volunteering to do that at their
Yeah.
agenda meeting the other day, so we appreciate that extra effort. It's great to be malleable when we're showing donor stewardship, so thank you all for doing that. You would have understood if it wasn't doable, but it was, so thank you. So any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor of approving the name? Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go back to student success. So we have 6 presenters here. Dr. Arnsdorf, Dr. Lounsbury, Dr. Crilly, Dr. Lane, Dr. Bond, and Dr. Roberts. Which of you is the least likely to be here next month automatically? Okay, all right, let's do which does date.
All right. Dr. Lounsbury, who just started last Monday, is not going to present this. I didn't want to put her on the spot. So we have Dr. Ashley Jack, who is our Senior Associate Vice President in the Provost
Presented
Office.
to us before.
Yeah.
You are correct. I did get to present to you. Each of you should have a handout. It's a handout that you did receive in October. And I know all of you studied it. You're ready to talk in depth about it, but I'll give you a presentation again, just kind of share with you now from the perspective of how the investment of funding has allowed us to impact our student success. And I promise to move quickly for you. So I would like to begin with sharing with you that when we really started to focus on what were the initiatives that we would do with our funding, we really wanted to focus on transformational practices. And we wanted to ensure that it was transformational practices that would have continuous support for our students. And we didn't want it to just be transactional right there at that time. So as we focused in on what was important for our students, these bullets on this slide just capture a few of the programs and initiatives that we have started to do at Wichita State. And I'll talk a little bit more in depth with each of these as I look at each of the NIST recommendations and share with you what that looks like for us. The first thing that I want to share with you is that within our strategic plan at Wichita State, we have a strategic enrollment management plan. Within that, we have 4 goals, and within those 4 goals, we have initiatives that we have outlined within each of those. Our student success and persistence, specifically, are 4 recommendations that came from the NIST playbook, are within these first 3 goals. And so looking at our 4 NIST recommendations, what I want to share with you is how we have focused in on transformational practices within each of those and how we have brought in the entire university into this effort. So first of all, to remind you, we when we first received our recommendations, we laid out our timeline of what would that look like. And so this Gantt chart you've seen several times. I know it's been presented to you, but this really laid out how we would take each of those initiatives or NIST recommendations and then break them down into bite-sized pieces, which then would impact our students. So as we did that work, we first started out with campus-wide communication and commitment. And that happened through town halls. That happened through a group that we developed, a coalition that we developed, which is Student Success and Persistence Coalition, that is representative of faculty, staff, and administrators across campus. And then PET also showed their commitment. PET is our president's executive team, and they developed 3 key strategies. And I won't read each of these to you because you have those, but really this showed their investment to show how we were going to make student success and persistence a commitment across the entire university.
Did you think of the name before you created an acronym?
I don't know. Okay, we call, it's education. You have acronyms for everything, right? Okay, so President's Executive Team. So within the President's Executive Team, we set our first goal. That first goal is that we would, based upon the NIST recommendations, we would ensure that our 6-year graduation rates were equalized for our underserved and non-underserved students. Our second goal, which came out of the Council of Deans, was to focus in on our persistence rates among students and to ensure that we were at 75% by 2025 and that we were at 80% by 2030. So as we focus on NIST recommendation 1, systematizing the use of our academic data for course retentions, our actions have been focused on using the data to inform our course and our program redesigns. We started tracking DF rates, meaning that we started to look at courses that had high DF rates, and we knew that we needed to lower that. Those were courses where a large percentage of the students, the first time they took it, resulted in a D or an F course or grade. So we also started to focus in on our academic supports within our high enrollment first-year courses. Not only will you see that we have a decrease in the number of our high DF rates, but you also will see that there was an increase in the number of high DF courses that participate in our student early alert system. That's only possible because we have gotten faculty to buy into this initiative. And faculty are there focused on student success. And so that speaks volumes there. What I do want to note for you is that you see 3 years of data. We look at 2021 data as our pre-intervention data. We measure 2022 and 2023 as our post-intervention data. So that is why you will see 3 years of data there. We also really started to focus in on our bottleneck courses. These are the ones that had a high closed course rate that prevented a student to be able to move through their academic plan in a timely manner. And really just focusing on what are those must-take courses and how do we ensure all of our students have that. As we looked at our transformative practices within this, I will tell you that the key piece was that our Shocker Success Center, which is on the front of your brochure for you to see, and we were able to give each of you a tour of that. That's where you received your hero cards. And as soon as I have President Muma's made, I'll make sure you receive that hero card as well. I think that was a recommendation provided to us. So within the Shocker Success Center, if you recall, we took 18 front-facing offices for students, and we put those within that building. What I wanted to share with you today is that we tracked our data of the use of that building in the fall semester, which was our first semester to launch that. And in each office, there is a check-in process where students check in to show that they're using those offices. In fall 2024, we had over 19,300 visits within that building. So that shows the impact that that building is having on our students. We also really started to focus in on our Shocker teaching community of practice and bringing our faculty together to focus on student-centered teaching practices. Our second area is to standardize the academic advising for our consistent support. As we have focused on this, we have wanted to ensure that our students from across all majors had consistent support. And so we really focused on standardizing our academic advising. And in doing so, in the advising ecosystem, which you'll see in that bottom right of the slide, we have developed standardized academic degree maps for all of our programs. These are used in all advising sessions. We've also developed common training and systems for our advisors to use, the key one being Navigate. What I want you to note, though, is that we were using Navigate prior to receiving our 4 NIST recommendations, but really what we have done now is focused in on how do we enhance our use of that and make it a practice to where not only our academic advisors are using it, but we also are focused on how our specialized advisors are utilizing that. And when we talk about specialized advisors, we're talking about financial aid being a key area or our care team being a key area. And those are just 2 of many examples. But we also have faculty who are leaning into the use of Navigate and how they can use that to communicate with students. Also within this, this system, we have all of our students using it. So we have adopted the student platform as well. So all the students have it on their desktop or downloaded on their cell phone, and they are utilizing that as a communication tool. Of the data that is up there, all of it is representative of the impact that this is having. But really what I want you to see is that with constant communication with our students, as well as our standardized academic advising, we've lowered the percentage of students who are on probation after their first year. So really focusing on our first year students and making sure that we retain those students. Quickly looking at NIST Recommendation 1, which is our intentional academic pathways for retention. We've utilized this to help our students learn about select and transition between majors. We do so through transformative practices such as Shocker preseason programs, which is proactively connecting our students to their peers, faculty, and staff through similar majors and/or interests. Our academic colleges have designed and implemented mentoring programs. All of our colleges have mentoring programs that they're utilizing, and this has been key. We also are using our advising council and our academic advising teams, and we've created a transition advising framework in every professional academic advising center. So there's one individual identified in every advising center who's a transition advisor. So when a student comes in and says, you know, this really I don't think is the major that I want, what that person does is they are equipped with the tools to support that student and to transition them into that new major, even if it's not within that same college. And the third thing that I would also share in regards to this area is that all of our students have a success team. So represented in that screenshot from their cell phone, as we all know, those students are hooked to their cell phones. They can look up on their cell phones, who is my success team? They know who their academic advisor is. They know who their success coach is. They know who their student outreach and support coordinator is on campus. They know who their financial aid advisor is. They know who their career coach is, and they also know who their university librarian is. So they know who the team is there to help support them. And the next piece that we're doing that we will roll out in fall of 2025 is leaning into the meta majors, and we have transformed our learning communities to support our students within identified meta majors. And this is going to allow us to not only support our students within their courses, but also within their chosen career path. So that's where our Shocker Career Accelerator plays a key piece, and also building that sense of belonging within their chosen field and with other students. And that's where our student affairs team comes in and is a key piece. We will launch this with our fall 25 cohort of admitted high school seniors coming in. And we know that this will have a positive impact. Our last area is our strengthening our financial outreach to our students. We've utilized this funding to expand our Shocker Promise program, and we've also utilized this to ensure that our first-time freshmen are receiving that financial aid. As you can see, this has had a positive impact upon our students, but we also have used it for Student Digital Toolbox to ensure that all of our students in some high identified underserved areas have that computer that they need to stay connected to their courses, to stay connected to their professors, and to stay connected to the campus. What I can tell you number-wise is that Shocker Promise Academy has impacted well over 300 plus students just since implementation in the last 2 years. And that's with new students and retaining our students. So in looking at what does this impact have, I won't go through all this data because I know we've had the opportunity to talk about it. But what I want you to see is that in the left column, we have lowered that time to degree. So for that first time in college student, when they came in with no earned hours, it was taking them an average of 4.5 hours to graduate within 6 years, or to graduate. And now we've lowered that to 4.2 years. And then we have our students who are coming in with 1 to 29 hours, and that's represented in the far right column. And you'll see that those students who are coming in with transfer hours, we're lowering their time to degree as well. The overall impact on our persistence, as you recall, 2021 is representative of our pre-intervention. Our 22 and 23 numbers are representative of our post-intervention, and our 2-year change has been immense. From fall to spring, it's a 3.9%, and this is looking at our first time in college students. And looking at our fall to fall persistence is 6.4%. And the final slide just breaks that down so that you can look at what does that look like in our growth and persistence for, as we look at those FTIC students, for our non-risk and our at-risk students. And you see that the biggest impact is happening with our at-risk students needing that additional support. So with that being said, as you know, Wichita State is an exciting place to be now more than ever. As we forge ahead, fueled by our commitment to student excellence, we are more than ready to realize our aspirations and to uphold our esteemed legacy of Shocker Nation. And we are open to questions.
Questions?
Mr. Chair, I was encouraged to hear you say that you were able to secure campus-wide buy-in from the faculty on the early alert system, because it seems like that could really be powerful in addressing problems before they get out of hand. Knowing that faculty obviously have a lot on their plate and that's optional, do you use any particular strategy to get buy-in from faculty on that?
The buy-in from faculty is that they know student success is important and that we need students on campus for the doors to stay open and for them to have a job and for them to have a classroom of students to teach. But more than anything, we encourage faculty to look at the fact that that could be your son or daughter or your grandchild or whoever, right? And so what would you want to happen for them? And really just focusing in on that student-centered focus of what would we want to happen for our own, and we make that happen for them.
This is fantastic. I'm very appreciative of this effort. When we meet with the student body presidents, we have, one of the topics we get is the books and the cost of the books, and they feel like sometimes the cost is upfront so early that the student doesn't even know who to contact, how to go, and so this particular system, is there any information that pertains to the books or any connection with the fellow students within the organization, so that they can get some tips or, in
Right.
that perspective?
Right. So all courses in the schedule are marked so that they kind of know if it's an open access course or Access Now course. So there is that. That's also where some key communication happens between the academic advisor and the students so that they know that as well. But then we also have a very supportive environment within our bookstore. So the students can go there. The bookstore works with them closely with, what they are needing. But then also that's where our specialized advisors come in. So if a student's within a course that they can't afford that book, we have resources where we can help support them, whether we help them check that book out. They get some additional funding that helps support them buying that book, purchasing that book. So we have some systems in place to help support our students.
With this or already existing? Because the last month when we had conversation, WSU had the highest book fees in all of the students. And so I'm just bringing that up as a.
Sure, and I appreciate that. And it is something that we are continuously working on. But I think I hear Dr. Terry Hall back here in the back. I think she wants to share something.
Sure.
I will share that last year we started to work with faculty on the Access Now and really trying to create a culture of understanding what that looks like, so that we can get the price of books lowered. And we are continuing to try to expand our open access across campus. And yes, that started prior to this, but we really are just trying to enhance that communication with all of our students and what that looks like. But as you know, you can communicate, communicate, and communicate. There's always still a few that maybe don't always hear that.
Okay, let's move on so we can at least get one or two more here. Got people that came to present that aren't going to get to. So, Dr. Curley, I think you aren't always here, right? Okay. All right. So let's resort back to the order we had then. So Dr. Arnsdorf. And I deeply apologize to all of you who won't get to present. I know you're prepared. I'm sorry about that.
We could get the Fort Hays slide deck up.
I hope I pronounced your name right. Oh, Riley. Okay, good. Thank you. We call on you next month. I'll get it for sure.
Fort Hays State. This is Wichita State. Great. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to provide a brief update. I'm going to kick this off and then turn it over to Vice President for Administration and Finance, Wesley Winch, to talk more about our need-based aid funding. A quick update if you want to go to the next. Oh, I guess I can go to the next slide. This slide is super complicated. Don't worry about all of the material on that. The two themes I want you to see on this is we have kicked off a new strategic plan at the university. We kicked that off this fall, and student success continues to be a part of our strategic plan for the university, as it is probably for every institution in the Regent system. It is goal 2 for us, and our desired outcome over the next 3 years in our plan is to improve equitable access for all students at Fort Hays by reducing the achievement gaps between different types of students, improving persistence by 3%. So I wanted to highlight that on this slide, and also highlight that this slide and this actually material that we have shared with our campus shows the interconnectedness of all of the planning efforts that are happening from the Regents level to data that we're pulling in, to support systems that we're using on our campus, as well as some priorities that I've identified in academic affairs, as well as the digital master plan that you heard me present on in November. So this slide really just shows the interconnectedness of all those things and how important that is for our university to buy in when they see that interconnectedness. If you go to the next slide. I keep trying to have you do that, and I can do it myself. These are just really some brief updates for you on our student success initiatives. If you have questions, I can certainly answer those in more detail and provide you more information as you need it. In year 1 of our strategic plan, specifically around goal theme 2, there are 3 elements that we're really honing in on. And one is to develop a Fort Hays State University specific benchmark for our achievement gap. So we're using course completion rates, assessment outcomes, course practices, and student supports to create that achievement gap. We're developing that benchmark this year, and then we'll be using that data each year to look at our progress and student success, and most likely we'll be reporting that out to you at future board meetings. We're also working really hard to implement and integrate 3 major data sources, EAB Navigate being one of those. We're also doing an initial analysis of our DFW rates. While we've done that, it's been a little haphazard for us. And so now that we have EAB Navigate, we're able to more robustly look at those data and do a better job of identifying some potential program improvements. We are still in our implementation of EAB Navigate. Unlike our peers in the state, we weren't using EAB Navigate yet prior to the decision to use that as a system. We did implement early alerts this fall and had, much like Wichita State, really robust success in faculty buy-in on that across the university system. We're also in the middle of a student success reorganization at Fort Hays State University, looking at how we're organized as an institution when it comes to student success. Vice President Joey Lynn and I are working hard on that together, along with many other folks at the institution, and hoping to have that work complete this spring so that when we go into next academic year, we're organized in a more robust way for the future in terms of student success. The last thing I'll mention in terms of student success updates, we have 3 years ago, we implemented our centralized advising model, and we weren't quite to the point where we had every student connected with a faculty mentor. That's an important part of our team that's supporting our students. And so now that we've moved to professional advising this last fall, we can say that now every undergraduate student at Fort Hays State University also has a faculty mentor in their field that they can connect with about internship and career advice in addition to their professional advisor. At this time, I'll turn it over to Vice President Winch for some additional information about need-based aid at Fort Hays State.
Thank you.
Okay, so need-based aid. Oh, what did I touch? There you go. That's the wrong button. In accordance with the initiative from you and from the legislature, we got some dollars for need-based aid, and the dollars were given to Kansas students with financial need. The funds went through our normal existing processes and were given to graduate, undergraduate, on-campus, and online students. We did do one new initiative, which is the income-based award. This allows any Kansas student who has an AGI, a family AGI of $70,000 or less, to have their tuition and fees 100% paid. We first capture any Pell and other scholarships, and then the remaining gap is covered by these need-based aid dollars. And the initiative helps ensure access to some of our lowest socioeconomic families in the state. So that has been implemented and has been successful. Need-based aid results of the program. Last year, we allocated these dollars to over 1,500 Kansas students. This year, we have already distributed to over 1,500 Kansas students. And you see the dollar amounts that were distributed last year. That's our full allocation of $3.5 million. And so far this year, we've already allocated over $1.1 million to needy Kansas students. And you can see some of the results here. It's hard to connect enrollments directly to any one thing because there's a million things that go into that. But on aggregate, our resident enrollments are up for fall 24. This is very recent data for this year. And we believe that these need-based dollars help make that happen. Also, there's some other pieces of information. Our overall retention rate from 2021 has increased by 3.2%. So our retention has increased from the beginning of that baseline year, just like what Wichita State said in 2021. So we're up 3%. And our graduation rates, 4-year and 6-year, are also up from that time. Graduation rates are up over 10%, and 6-year is over 7%. So we're seeing some success in these areas for some of these dollars that were given to us. And we're just very grateful for a chance to serve the people of Kansas. And thank you for your support. If you guys have any questions.
Questions for either of the Fort Hays folks? All right, thank you very much. All right, so I think we can do one more and still make sure we get our discussion in. So I guess you're up after all. Hey, then.
Thanks for letting me close out the day today. My name is Taylor Criley. I've been at Emporia State since August. Very thankful for the opportunities I had at Fort Hays State to work on the NIST playbook prior to my new role. Our students are rocking and rolling on campus, so we might need that rock band to help us out because they're starting classes this week. So I'm honored to represent our team to share the progress that we've been making on our NIST playbook. As you can see there, our timeline, it's sort of difficult to see on the bottom. I can give you a handout before you leave today or in our meeting afterwards. We're ahead of progress on all 4 of our goals on our timeline there as we're making progress to continue to implement all 4 of the goals. Goal 1, structured pathways. Right now, we're currently in the process of launching a new enrollment and orientation process this spring after evaluating all of our programs and initiatives in the retention funnel and what we're doing to create structured pathways for our students. We also created and implemented this fall learning communities for all first-time freshmen and transfer students that are on campus, and we are creating a new co-curricular learning and engagement model. Goal 2, academic advising. Similar to most of the other institutions, we've been working through our centralized advising model and what that looks like, not just for our college-centric models that we have advising, but providing centralized advising across in a central location across all degree programs. So we've reviewed that advising model, implemented our degree maps, and are utilizing our EAB implementation to really make progress on how we're communicating and connecting with our students through that platform. We were like Fort Hays, we did not have that platform prior to you all recommending us implementing that on campus. Goal 3 is our financial aid, which we're also calling our financial wellness for our students because of the amount of funding you've given us, not only for the NIST playbook, but also in federal aid. We've been able to really attack the cost of higher education for our students. We also created a collaborative enrollment unit to increase student communication and support, have increased our scholarship opportunities, and have been making financial aid alerts visible to advisors and our entire enrollment team to help our students. Our last goal, which is really the heart of everything we're doing in the NIST playbook, we'd like to compliment our institutional effectiveness team who is giving us data regularly, and we're disseminating that across the institution, not only to create teamwork, but to engage all facets of the university and what that data can do and how they can use that data to help us support our students. We are using graduation rates and retention rates to evaluate our progress and using even additional leading and lagging indicators to identify how we can move the needle to create timely graduation for our students. We know that this will reduce the financial burden and continue to provide more access and opportunities for students to successfully complete Emporia State University. And so we're feeling really good about comparing our graduation rates, 4-year, 5-year, 6-year, 8-year graduation rates across the system to continue to help us establish our benchmarks and drive our metrics.
Strong results.
Yes. So my final slide here will kind of wrap up how we're spending our money and where we're seeing our indicators across the board. So we've really focused in after evaluating all of our data that we needed to focus in on our first semester retention, fall to spring, looking at our freshman transfer and online student fall to spring retention. We've seen an increase in our freshmen and online, 2% for freshmen, 4% for online. We still have a marginal decrease in transfer, but with our implementation of learning communities, we were able to target the transfer population, and we will hope to see an increase as we continue forward. Our first year retention for fall to fall, the 3 focus populations, freshman transfer and our online. Really proud of our team. This goes to the 1.2 million you invested in need-based aid for us that allowed us to not only recruit and retain our students. That saw a significant increase this last year to get 8% increase in freshman first year retention. We also saw an increase in our transfer retention rate for first year, but still a minimal decrease for online student population. What we're most excited about is all this work comes together to help us, and we're seeing an increase in graduation rates for 4-year, 5-year, 6-year, that trend across the board. And so those positive indicators are something that the team is really excited about to continue to move forward. So thank you for your funding and for giving us the opportunity to use this playbook to complement our work and drive what we're doing at the university. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you for doing all that.
Yeah, you bet.
Any questions? It is a great impact. Thank you. Oh, here's your winner.
Make this quick. I'm curious about your opinion about the extent to which, if any, this NIST program has actually worked compared with what your expectations were 3 years ago. So imagine that there's a scale of 1 to 10, and a 0 is NIST didn't help me at all. In fact, it probably annoying and it got in my way. 10 is, oh my gosh, I'm astounded about how good. Where would you put your opinion on that 1 to 10 scale?
It really put me on the spot here.
Very excited.
They're gonna bring the,
I might choose the rock and roll band. Um, what I have learned in my time both at Fort Hays and Emporia State is the NIST playbook really has complemented the strategic plans that were in place. And it helped us communicate not only to our campuses and to build that engagement across campus, but then to work together across the universities to engage in conversations and discussions, and then report back to all of you that helps craft the picture of the work that we were doing on our campus in a way that helps us better measure and demonstrate that success. So I don't have a number for you, but I know that it's a valuable opportunity to bring everything we're doing together.
I put on my calendar a month from now to get back to you and get that number.
I will get a number back to you. Let me ask my colleagues and we'll get a number to you.
Well, since rock's been a theme of the day, you could say this one goes to 11, but
I missed the opportunity.
Jill, what's your number? Oh, you guys gotta toughen up here. This isn't win or lose. Okay, great, thank you.
okay, so I once again want to apologize that some of you were ready and didn't get a chance. Dr. Lang, Dr. Bond, Dr. Roberts, we'll look forward to doing your next, if you come in next month. I'm sorry that it happened the way it happened. We'll keep working to have an impact, and we thank you all for all your work. So we'll adjourn. We'll meet with the Council of Student Affairs, if I got that right. At 4:35, that'll give us the published hour, and then we'll still be able to be in position for our next commitment. So 10-minute break, 5:35, 4:35, we're in Kathy Rupp. Yeah. We're in Kathy Rupp for that group. Thank you all. Thank you all very much. We're adjourned.